Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lore Lodge podcast, where we have a very special guest tonight, one of our favorite recurring guests on the show, Nick from The Missing Enigma. Nick, you want to say hi?
Hi, thank you for having me. Always good to be here.
All right. I don't know if you saw, I don't know if you saw either, Joe Scott, big channel, two and a half or so million subs. He did a video on Missing 411 today, and he brought us up.
No way.
And I made a point to shout you out in the comments.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I was like, no, spread the love. Spread this. There's more. There's a lot of good channels. But yeah, so, I mean, that's obviously what we talk about most of the time, and I thought that would be a fun... I was like, this is the universe giving us a sign, is we're getting another person talking about this who's nice and big. And he was... one of the other reasons I want to bring it up, again, big channel. His conclusion on this was kind of what we typically run into, which is, all right, this is a little weird, but there are explanations.
Yeah, my experience is like most of them don't really pan out, but some are genuinely strange.
Exactly. And I thought that would be the best way to go with this one, with this episode, because, you know, this fall we went down to the Appalachians and we had a time. We looked into the Jordan Grider case as you did, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on it in a more conversational format. But some of these cases really don't make sense, and those are the fun ones. I mean, not fun, obviously, and like it's horrible, terrible tragedy. But
right.
As an investigator, years later, it's kind of fun to have an actual challenge, try and figure out what's going on instead of. I don't know how much you've looked into the Great Smokies cases, but there's like 4 or 5 where it's just not mysterious at all. It's like somebody's up at the top of Klingman's Dome, and he's like, I'm gonna race you guys to the parking lot, and then he disappears.
Yeah, I just did some. I just finished a video recently on Trenny Gibson. So.
Oh yeah. Well, if you want any footage.
Oh yeah.
If you want any footage.
Yeah, I intentionally got some extra B-roll, so if you want to use it.
Cool.
Did you already put it up?
No, it's not up yet. It's just on Patreon, but it's not public.
Gotcha. Dude, let us know. We have plenty of B-roll if you want some.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Really, for anything in the Appalachians, we have B-roll for you.
Yep.
Excellent.
I was thinking next time we do a cluster, I should go out like ahead of time and get some B-roll just of certain areas, considering like would have been useful.
Yeah.
In the primary video to have that, but it's fine.
Right.
Well, since you bring up Trenny though, I'm curious. What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, in terms of like my conclusion on the case, it would have to be like I'm definitely like 90% certain that she is no longer in the park.
Oh, yeah.
And that she left in a vehicle.
Yep.
Everything in that case seemed to point to it. And to me, the main question was who was driving it? Was it someone she knew that picked her up, or was it someone she didn't know that nabbed her?
Yeah.
And those are the two where they just kind of diverge. Was it a crime, or was she trying to run away?
Yep.
And there's kind of evidence for either theory, but one of the things I was really trying to dig up more info on that case, and I did, but it didn't, all it did was kind of like, there was like 2 suspects in that case. Mm-hmm. And it just, in the end, it kind of just made it look like, no, they weren't suspects, and it got nowhere, so it didn't, no closer to solving it, but just a little more information, really. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
but I definitely think she left that park.
Oh, she's not in there. It's no way. For those who don't know, Trenny Gibson was 16 in 1975, 76. 16 in 1976. She was on a school field trip in a park, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, up the Klingman's Dome area, headed down to Andrews Bald. It's about 1.5 miles or so of a trail, and 3/4 of a mile to half a mile from the parking lot. Her friends watch her go up around a bend, and she's never seen again. So when you say there were suspects, who did you look at?
So the 2 main suspects were her best friend, Robert Simpson.
Yep.
She went to school with him. They stayed together throughout this field trip. The funny thing about the field trip in general is that none of the kids supposedly knew where they were going until the day they left.
Did you find a source for that?
About
them not knowing?
When they left? Them not knowing?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there is. It's Trenny's mother.
Okay.
Because she was going to be a chaperone.
Gotcha.
and then she backed out at the last minute, and that's why there was only one adult watching 40 kids.
Gotcha.
And she felt bad about that, obviously, forever. And the teacher, he ruined his life basically, because that's way too many kids for just one adult to be looking at.
It was 25-to-1 ratio.
Right, and there were some rumors though that that information had leaked out, because there was a woman who interviewed some of the kids, now adults, and they claimed that they knew that the information had leaked out and that like half of them knew where they were going.
Yeah.
But either way, Robert Simpson was with Trenny, and they were good friends, and they were stuck together on the trip. And when they got to the park, they went to Andrew's Bald together. And then it was when they were heading back that things changed. Trenny wanted to go back, and Robert, he wanted to stick around Andrew's Bald for a little while. Supposedly, he was like tracking a bear.
Yeah, that's what we found.
I can't find a source for that other than Politis.
So
really?
I have a source for that. I got an email from a member of Robert Simpson's family.
Oh, yeah?
That is true. That is,
okay.
He did stay behind because he was tracking a bear. And then, to be blunt about it, his entire family thinks he did it.
Yeah, I heard from other people that said, like, that would be in his character to do something like that.
His dad was the DA, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he stayed behind and was tracking a bear, whatever, and Trenny goes on, she's with another group, and then she's kind of leapfrogging with different people. And then she's walking with this one group, and they kind of get tired. They're walking too fast, and they all want to stop, but Trenny wants to go on. And some of them say they saw her just kind of walk off into the woods.
Right.
They turned their head, and then she's gone, and she like walked off, just kind of vanished. But the most compelling evidence to me was like the scent evidence that's at the NPS. Like a lot of scent evidence indicated that she made it to the Appalachian Trail and
then headed east about a mile.
Yeah. But I guess back to why Robert Simpson was a suspect, even Trenny's mom really thought he was a suspect because supposedly Trenny's comb, which Trenny's mother said she would never part with, was found in Robert's car. And she's really set on this idea that that's like a really important thing. Whether it is or not, I can't really say. Some other people, point to the fact that Robert Simpson's father was a U.S. attorney. He was a really powerful guy in that area, and he could shut down an investigation if one was occurring with his son. And, the Gibson file for the FBI has never been released, even to this day. So
there is an NPS file. Did you find that one?
I did find the NPS file.
That was a fun one to read. That was so nice to put together into a coherent story.
Yeah, that one was. It was, it's weird. It was kind of like weird for an NPS file too, because it seemed like there really wasn't much like on the investigative side outside of the search.
It's
like,
super detailed about every step of that search,
right?
And and then Robert Simpson's interview, which should be in there, just
right. Exactly. Or interviews with any of the other classmates. There's like so much information you would expect to be done in there. And so I got to imagine it's in the FBI report, but they're still calling this a criminal case. And Trenny is technically still alive, and Trenny's mother will not declare her dead. If she filed, paperwork to have her daughter, be declared deceased, you could theoretically get that released. But she doesn't want to do that. So, so that's why Robert Simpson is kind of looked at as a suspect. It's kind of weak information, though. The only other suspect in that case was a fellow named Kelvin Bowman.
Okay.
And he has an interesting story. So, like 1 year prior to Trenny's disappearance, there was this incident where he was at the Gibson house and he got shot in the leg by Trenny's mother. So he's the one that got
shot at.
Yes, he's never named, but that's who he is.
How did you find that out?
Well, Kelvin Bowman was alive until 2 months ago. He just died. And
long time to die from a gunshot wound to the leg.
Yeah, right.
Right. He didn't die at that time, but Trenny's mom shot him in the leg because, she said that he was like stalking Trenny.
I'm not sure if he was stalking her so much as they were into each other.
Exactly. I guess back then, it was like they didn't like the fact that Trenny was kind of into black guys. Apparently,
Oh,
there's a
black?
long history for it. Yes.
Now a lot more about that story makes sense.
It was the South, and it was the 70s.
Yeah,
can't say I'm shocked.
Yeah, so
some pieces are tumbling together here.
Yeah, so he went to the hospital after getting shot, and then he went to jail for like a breaking and entering bit.
He went to jail for getting shot at?
Yeah.
It was the South. It was the 70s.
And apparently, according to Trenny's parents, he made some comments about wanting Trenny dead after, like he was sentenced. And so all of this kind of added up to, in addition to I think it might be in the NPS file or it might be in this book written by Baldwin and Grubb called Lost in the Smokies.
I cannot stand that book.
Yeah, there's this rumor that Kelvin was seen following the bus on the way there, but it was completely refuted by the principal of the school who said he was in class that day. But since there was that incident, it was kind of everyone looked at him as a suspect. But Kelvin Bowman was still alive, like I said, up until 2 months ago. And I was working with Mike Bouchard on this, and he contacted Kelvin and has text messages with him. He said that him and Trenny were in a relationship for a whole year.
Wow.
And he had been sneaking into that window for that time. And this was the time that they just finally caught him.
Jeez.
And he said, he was pretty upset about getting pointed to as a suspect in her case for this whole time. And it's just, but to me, it's we kind of exonerate that lead, but that's just another dead end. It doesn't seem like there's really any suspects anymore that have strong evidence that point to any of them.
And Simpson's dead. So,
yeah, he's dead. Everyone in that case, almost everyone is now dead due to a drug overdose.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's interesting.
Which is weird because they were from Knoxville. It's not like they were in a boonies kind of area where you tend to see that kind of thing. This was from what I understand, they were all in a middle class part of town.
Yeah, you can look at their house. It was a pretty nice house. I mean, her dad had a good job.
You wonder.
Do you know what kind of drugs it was?
I don't. I know.
I would guess probably heroin.
That's the thing is because my immediate go-to was in that area in that time. Well, I guess Oxy was later.
Meth wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, my first thought was going to be OxyContin, but that was in the 90s, wasn't it?
Probably.
Right.
So I would think just regular old heroin.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he was I believe towards the end he was living in his parents' basement or something. And,
he wasn't doing great.
Yeah. And Trenny's mom is still alive, but she's
she's got to be ancient.
And she's I mean, I don't want to call her strange, but she she only talks about this case. I mean, she'll go on this long diatribes about her faith and God and stuff, and it seems like she doesn't want to talk about it. It's interesting.
They did seem and I'm just obviously for the people who might take this the wrong way, I am a Christian. I'm wearing my cross right now, actively. It's right here. It's on my neck. They seemed like the super religious type of Christians.
Yeah, they're super
fundamentalists.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So, and that I got the sense of that when I was reading through their interviews in the paper and everything, and it just what I think drives me insane about that case, especially now that you mentioned that the one guy Kelvin was African American, is I wonder if it would have been solved if it weren't for the social stigmas of the time.
Right.
And if people had been a little bit more willing to look at different angles instead of being oh, well, it was clearly the black guy.
I mean, I tend to think she ran away of her own volition because, while her parents portrayed themselves as being a really happy family, apparently her friends were they thought she was just a slave in that house and being treated like absolute garbage. And there was all these rumors about that, and that her life was not good there. Her only duties were to cater to her little brother. She wasn't allowed to have friends over, all kinds of things like this. And so unhappy kids like that can run away sometimes. The counter argument to that is that she didn't take really anything with her. She had a bank account with money in it. It was untouched.
Yeah.
But you could say that she just did that to not let people know that it was so obviously that she ran away, you know.
The bank account, I didn't put too much stock in because it was the 70s. She probably needed parental permission to withdraw anything. The $200 in cash she left at home, on the other hand.
That's true, yeah.
I did just have a thought.
Ooh, it would make sense, the Star Sapphire ring.
That's literally
what you were going to say. That's
Yep.
why she would have bought it?
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Because then she could sell it or pawn it afterwards.
Yeah. Jewelry is an easy way to sell
Well, have you heard that the ring, there's like, I'm going to call it a rumor, that it showed up with one of the classmates.
I heard about that too. In fact,
in their
if I'm not
possession.
mistaken, I heard about that from the relative.
Yeah, and that she didn't want to give it back or something, but no
Yeah.
one really knows. I mean, supposedly Trenny gave it to her to hold on to or something, but there's so much rumor
Yeah.
in this case. It's really hard to know what's, legitimate because there's a lot of people that are involved and they all have different opinions on possibilities, and some of it contradicts others.
Yeah.
But it's, in the end, I think she wanted to get out of there, and she is definitely not in the park. And
That is my hope. I would hope this was a runaway situation because the alternatives are not good.
Yeah. And I mean, if she did do that, you got to wonder, whatever happened to her. Could she still be alive after all this long and not have been found? I don't know. Maybe.
If I remember correctly, there was a sighting of a girl who matched her description at a diner down the highway. Like within a week of her disappearance, and then by the time anybody like put two and two together and called the sheriff, she was gone. But I mean, given the time, it would not be out of the question for her to run away, hop a bus to California.
For me,
right.
the Paul Fugate story just makes me confident that almost anybody could find a way to just kind of make their own way at that time.
Have you looked into that one, Paul Fugate?
No, not
National
much.
Park Ranger who disappeared in a national park.
Yeah.
We have a video on it. There's a really good article on it in God, I cannot remember the name of the paper. I'll find it for you though. It's a magazine, not a paper. But yeah, he's just park ranger who just disappears in the park on like a routine patrol, and they came up with all these possible different reasons. And you look at it, and it's like he probably just left.
Mm-hmm. And then it was what, 10?
Oh, really?
They were 80 miles from Mexico. 80 miles from Mexico.
Right.
What was it, like 10, 20 years later that somebody who
it was
all like
a while later
potentially saw him in a bar?
Yeah, somebody who was in his training cadre in the Park Service was like sitting at a bar basically on the border, and he looks across and there's Paul Fugate sitting there having a beer. They make eye contact. Fugate puts the beer down and leaves. If it's him. But to me, that suggests it was probably him.
I could believe that. I feel like you could disappear in Mexico,
Yeah. Well, the thing was, the National Park Service didn't want to give his wife his pension because they were like, no, he's not dead. He wasn't killed by, traffickers. He wasn't attacked by a mountain lion on the job. He ran away. He left. And his wife is like, no. Meanwhile, his wife is full of shit. I was like, she has this journalist over decades later, like the 2010s, 2020s. He goes in and he's talking to her, and she's like, got clothes laid out on this chair, and she's like, these were the clothes Paul wore on, these were the clothes he had laid out as his daytime clothes, for when he finished up work that day. Meanwhile, the shirt she has out didn't come out until 4 years after he died.
Interesting.
And she's been collecting a pension and his life insurance for the last 40 years. And it's like, listen, I'm not going to be the guy that goes and tells the government, hey, this is happening. But at the same time, like, I get why the Park Service is like, he left.
That's an interesting dynamic, though. Like, what do you think would be going on between them if, like, his wife is still living where she's living and he just, goes to Mexico?
Oh,
and,
there's a whole thing with that.
Yeah, their whole dynamic
they had a one-sided open marriage.
Oh, okay, well.
And he was the one who had the opening.
Why not?
And she had just told him that she wanted him to stop seeing somebody. I think the way I look at this is like...
It goes deep. I got you.
They basically probably made an agreement to have him disappear. She would get the money, collect the pension, all that. He'd get to go live his life in Mexico. That's my thinking on it. But I wanted to circle back because you mentioned the FBI and Michael Bouchard, and we were talking about weird cases in the Smokies. And I don't know about you, but I do think Dennis Martin's one of the weird ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Not necessarily because he wasn't found or how he went missing, but largely because of what, listening to your interviews with Bouchard and that I read Bouchard's books. That FBI interception of Harold Key is so weird to me.
You mean when he was going to the park to show them the spot and then they intercepted him?
Yeah.
Why does that one bother you?
Because if you, I did my best to triangulate where he actually had this sighting based on what he said to the paper. And then it basically put him out near Tremont.
I think so.
Yeah, near the Job Corps camp. And then he goes into, and so that's east of Cades Cove. Then he's on his way. He gets intercepted by the FBI agent. It was Jim Reich, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Gets intercepted by the FBI agent. He gets to the park, and then he leads them west, like 2 miles, when he said he thought he had driven something like 7.
Around the loop, right?
I don't know if he drove around the loop, but he might have driven around the loop. I don't know if it was one way at the time. But he basically takes him 2 miles southwest of the entrance to Cades Cove when he clearly described to the paper a route that took him east, because he said he drove up a mountain road. There is no mountain road heading west out of the Cades Cove Visitor Center.
Yeah.
So his story changes aggressively. It's not like, he took him the same direction for a little while.
Would it be possible to come in from different angles and that could account for it?
No. Having been down there, absolutely not.
Okay.
So that bugged me. Is
it just the difference in where Harold supposedly had the sighting and not so much the fact that the FBI intercepted him?
It's the fact that the FBI intercepted him and then his story changed.
Okay, because to me initially I always thought like, oh, maybe they intercepted him because they just wanted him to give them directions to exactly wherever the sighting was had because they didn't know.
Well, that's the thing though, is that they set up the meeting with the Park Service, so they knew where he was going to be in the park.
Well, roughly, but they didn't know. The spot is out in the woods somewhere.
I know that. I mean, like from what I understand, what he did was Key drove to Cades Cove, met up with the Rangers at the visitor center, and then took them to where he was. And I believe there was an FBI agent there too.
Yeah.
Not Reich, Reich's partner.
Stelling.
Yeah. So my understanding of what happened is he leaves home to drive to the park to meet up with an FBI agent and several park rangers. Along the way, another agent intercepts him, which would actually be fairly easy to do along the road into Cades Cove, because there's just all these little stops off on the side. It's one road in and out. And it takes like an hour to get there from Gatlinburg. It's crazy. Because this one scenic road is just people drive so slow.
Right.
But yeah, so he goes to drive to the park, gets intercepted, gets to the park, meets with the Rangers before he goes to where the sighting supposedly happened. And then he leads them 2 miles west and is like, yeah, it was up that little creek right there. So that's what bugs me. Is like, why that? Also the Green Berets.
Well, so you're going on an idea that maybe they made him change his story in some fashion. But the thing is that, well, I mean, it's possible, but the problem I come across is that like there is really so little detail about his story in general to begin with. I mean, it's not in the MPS report, and the one that's in the FBI report isn't great.
No,
there's and he has completely different stories all over the newspapers, which are just like random kind of different.
And that's what I did, is I basically weeded everything out that I was like, this could be extraneous reporting. This could be somebody heard somebody said something. And what I got to was like, okay, we know he headed east. We know he headed along a mountain road that is now a trail, not Boat Mountain Road. It was a different one. And I was able to figure out that I think it was the one that goes up towards, I think, Middle Prong. The trail used to be a road, used to be a dirt Jeep trail. So it seems like that is probably where he ended up.
Well, what I would do, I mean, if you have Bouchard's book, I would
Yeah.
take whatever you've gleaned from like the FBI report and compare it to whatever information is in Bouchard's book. I don't remember if you mentioned exactly where the sighting took place, because I think the Bouchard information to me would probably be the most accurate, because I don't think he would be as afraid of like,
Probably not.
you know, he was already like 90 something, you know, and you know, I don't think he cared anymore or was worried about FBI threats at that point. I mean, Reich and Estill were long dead.
Yeah.
But obviously there was pressure from the FBI for him to just be silent.
Yeah, something's not right.
Yeah.
And you said, I think in one of the interviews with Bouchard, because I read through the books, I didn't read them in their entirety. I kind of scanned for information that I thought I needed, because I didn't have a ton of time.
No,
that's what you get when you do a video a week, which is
exactly.
impressive enough. So
it's a pain. Currently on week 2 of JonBenet Ramsey.
Oh yeah,
whoa,
that's
a big one, man. That's huge.
Oh, it's a really big one. I've read 2.5 books.
It's a big one. Also, it's an intense one.
It's an intense one.
Yeah.
Like,
I hope you stay monetized. No.
Yeah, I hope so. Video 1 is like, I don't know how long it is.
I just finished the first pass this evening. It is just about 35 minutes of actual content.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's shorter than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Huh, well.
That's not including the call at the beginning, though.
Okay. Well, that's still short.
Yeah.
Yeah, part 2 is going to be longer. Part 2 is going to be so much longer. But yeah, so, I mean, but to bring it back, I was saying something about Bouchard.
You guys are just...
Oh, I remembered it. I think he said something about he got a call a couple of years later from the FBI.
Yeah.
All right,
he got a couple calls.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that?
The first one he got like really soon after the disappearance, and the voice on the other end was just, keep your mouth shut, don't talk about this case, don't talk about the kid. And then in the 80s, which does coincide, according to the FBI files, about the time when they pretty much stopped looking into it at all.
Yeah.
He got another call where they said, the case is closed, and something else, I think. But, basically that, the case is closed,
Don't
whatever, it's done. And, so yeah, 2 calls that seemed like they were from the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And Harold apparently thought it was the FBI because they told him pretty much the exact same thing when they had an in-person meeting at his house.
Yeah.
Reich and Estill visited him at home, and when he told them his story, this is before they had the meeting out in the woods, but they told him to keep his mouth shut about it and not talk to anyone about it. Even though, obviously the newspapers were telling all kinds of stories about it. So
that's the frustrating thing, is like, if he doesn't talk about it, the newspapers are just going to start running wild. And that's kind of what happened.
Right.
Like, there's all these stories that like should have been corrected. The thing about him seeing somebody running with something slung over their shoulder, like, that didn't happen. He never said that.
Right.
So, but I am curious, you said you agreed with me when I said it's one of the weird ones, but you seem to have a different reason for thinking so.
Well, I mean, I think it's weird just because I hate to get super like Dave. I mean, there's certain aspects that are, strange, just it seems like by happenstance, like just how everything plays out, with the meeting of the other Martins, and each of their sons share the same name, Douglas Martin, and then he disappears. And then what always seemed strange to me, and like that seemed central to the case, was the key sighting. This happens the same day, but at a distance that seems like it almost doesn't make sense. But
definitely doesn't make sense either way.
But it feels relevant at the same time, because if you hear, what Harold Key told Bouchard, it's that after he saw the man moving through the woods, he heard a child scream the word help, and then heard an agonizing scream of pain.
Yep.
And for that to occur on the same day a kid goes missing, to me, I'm just like, God, how can those not be? It would be bizarre for them almost to not be connected. It's possible, obviously, but
yeah. Well,
there's so much strength, and he's never been found, and there's all where is he still out there somewhere? Who is this guy? There's, to me, that's what makes it strange.
Yeah.
It's all these details that we have, but we can't make them make sense.
Yeah. I mean, when we were up there, we were kind of I was looking around like, I mean, it would be possible for somebody to, fall off a cliff here and disappear.
Yeah, I mean, for me, having been there, especially knowing Dennis's age,
Yeah.
like it wouldn't shock me.
What's weirder to me is that he wasn't found. Because basically where we were,
Right.
if he had gone off the trail, if you don't have dogs, I can see how he wasn't found. If you only have, 15 or 20 rangers, I can see how he wasn't found. There were 1,500 people searching this area. They were crawling all over it. They had dogs, they had Army Green Berets, they had rangers, they had volunteers, they had Boy Scouts.
Yeah, it just makes me think back to Paul LeMay, though. And I mean, we were in there in November when there was a lot less general cover.
There were only I think only a total of 60 people looked for him for 4 days.
For LeMay, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it was
Although
just a
for his
totally
case,
different situation.
Fair.
Right. Yeah, his was like a totally different search.
But it was also a much smaller scale search, both in terms of the people there, but also this area range that they could have covered.
Well, so part of the problem is they thought that he kept going instead of him taking a different trail to try and get home. So they were looking up at the top of the mountain and up for most of it.
Even still, generally, I mean, having been there now, it's a relatively concise area compared to the whole park. Because I'm even thinking about Hague, Hague going into that, that gulch. I mean, same thing could have happened to Dennis after going 3 miles down the wrong trail after getting lost. I mean, just in terms of playing devil's advocate here for this story.
Yeah, LeMay that was one where we got up there and we were like, oh, I see how this happened.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. I mean, we have a video on it which has the on the ground footage, but when you think Alaska, you don't really think, lush vegetation. It looked the same up there that it looked in Tennessee.
Yeah, the bottom of Mount Marathon, the first third of it is so dense, and there are so many. The really confusing bit, or not confusing bit, the really telling bit was how confusing the trails are in that section.
Yeah.
Because we got lost for a period just trying to get up the mountain.
Almost immediately.
Because there are so many little offshoot trails at the bottom there that, especially if he was coming down and it was starting to get dark, like myself personally and another guy we were with named Noah, we went up further. We tried to go to the summit, but we just had started too late in the day. So by the time we got, maybe halfway, maybe 4/5 of the way, roughly.
I probably turned around about halfway up.
Okay, so we probably got, 3/4, 4/5 of the way up before, the sun was officially starting to get close to setting.
They ran down the mountain in the dark.
We did, yeah. So that's what I was getting to. Is he and I ran down the mountain in the dark, but you get to that tree line level, and even if it's twilight, you can kind of see around you before then, even when it's bushy. But as soon as you hit the pines, it is just pitch black. And I can't remember. Oh yeah, we had our phone flashlights on at that point, because if we didn't, then we were easily going to essentially just trip over a rock.
We got to stop doing this. We got to stop trying to climb mountains too late in the day to be climbing mountains.
No, but here's the
second time now.
It's a great, cautionary tale. We're the ones who can do the stupid things to show you why you shouldn't do it.
We were about half a mile from Spence Field, heading up the Anthony Creek Trail when it got dark.
Yeah.
It was not good. Oh, is he frozen?
Oh, I think he is.
He's frozen.
I can still hear you. I just
okay.
can't.
Oh, cool.
It's okay.
So,
You've got a big smile on your face.
You're just staring at me.
That's
frozen. Staring right at me. Huh?
That's wonderful.
But yeah, we were about half a mile from Spencefield Trail Shelter, and I'm just like, oh, it's dark and my leg doesn't work.
Yeah, he's not kidding. Man. His leg officially locked vertical.
Yeah, I could not move my quad.
Yeah.
Why'd you start so late in the day?
Couple silly goofy moves. We spent a little too much time getting breakfast. We were under the impression that the entrance of Cades Cove was 15 minutes away, not an hour and 15 minutes away.
Okay.
Just a number of things that we absolutely were entirely our fault. Really, mostly my fault. But
I also forgot a lighter because we were going to make a campfire, so I can't let you take all the blame.
It's okay. I ended up forgetting the stove.
Yeah.
I had the gas canister, but not the stove itself.
At least the shelter had a fire pit.
It did. We got up there. There were 3 other guys already there. We were like, hey, you guys mind like if we make a fire to cook some food? And they were like, no, we'll help you.
Yeah, immediately.
They were all really nice guys.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great time. I forgot that a lot of Appalachian Trail people will like, I saw a few more videos from people who were doing it. Apparently, like, picking a trail name is a thing. So that's why we spent the night with Aquaman.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now it makes a lot more sense. But yeah. I don't know. What? Just one last thing about Dennis, because I do want to talk about Jordan. God, you were just staring at me.
Can you still hear us? Just want to make sure.
Nick? Oh, no.
Should I just reload the page?
Did they get him?
They might have gotten him.
They got him.
Hang on.
Nick?
Is it our end? Oh, it might be his end.
It could be his end. Well, now what do we do?
I don't know.
I'm going to shoot him a DM.
Yeah, send him a message.
Somehow I still don't have his number. I should probably fix that.
Yeah, might be a good call. In the meantime, while we wait to confirm or deny whether or not...
Wait, hang on. What's that? What are the chat saying? Where's the... Could it have been our end? Here, open a new tab, run a speed test.
Yep. We're getting a download of 700 megabits per second.
Okay.
Let's see what the upload is, because I'm on Ethernet. Yeah, we're getting 290 up, 300 up.
There he is.
There we go.
Sorry about that. I don't know. It's had a little malfunction there.
You're good. We weren't sure if it was you or us.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
We got you. We can see you.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, yeah, what I was going to say, one last thing about Dennis, because I really wanted to talk about Jordan. And now right. The Green Berets. That is the one thing that sticks with me about it, that no matter how many times I try to rationalize what happened there, and there are ways, I get it, like, they figured they weren't going to find Dennis, so they decided to turn it into a training mission. But why would you do that before the search is officially over? Like, why not use that tool the entire time instead of just being like, okay, you guys can go do a training mission now, bye? Because, I mean, in the Park Service report, they have this meeting on the 20th with the National Park Service, and they're like, okay, so if and when we find Dennis, here's how we run the op. And then they are gone. No more reports. Nothing else about what the Green Berets are doing. It's like, they went across Eagle Creek, they walked up it, they set up a helicopter landing spot in Haw Gap, and that's it. Nothing else. For 5 days, they're just there, and then they're gone.
Well, I got no problem with people kind of questioning that aspect of it, but the original kind of conspiracy was obviously that they were there to hunt feral wild men.
Yeah.
And I would argue that was definitely not the case.
I don't think that was it.
We have a lot of photographs and there's no weapons shown in any of them. Though I did have a guy email me who knew one of the Green Berets that was on that search. He said there was one gun belonging to the commander who had a 1911 .45 caliber pistol just for wildlife, and he said that was the only gun.
Well, so that's interesting, because I'm almost positive this was from Dwight McCarter's book. I wish I had it in front of me right now. But if I remember correctly, McCarter said he heard gunshots on a few occasions.
Yes. God, I've heard that too. I vaguely recall me talking with Mike Bouchard about that, and he had some reason for that. I can't, off the top of my head, remember what that was, but I think that is accurate.
Yeah.
But the actual reasons, I think it was 1 or 2 or something.
Yeah.
Though. And I think it might have been like signal fire
that could
or
be it.
something like that. But yes, I do think that is accurate.
Yeah.
And one other thing, actually, you know, when we were making your video or more recent Dennis Martin video, you asked me this question, and it caused me to think about it too, about when Dennis actually went missing. You know, when the boys separated from the adults and they were going to go around them and spook them, and then they tell Dennis to go some other way.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of questions about, like, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, what way, where, how is he? And I think we actually got a pretty good answer to that now, because like pretty recently Hulu released a pretty bad documentary on the Dennis Martin case. You know, it really goes in hot on the
does it
mythology.
go in the David Paulides direction?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
But the redeeming factor was that they got Douglas Martin, not actually related to Dennis.
So the other Martins. So they weren't relatives.
They were not relatives.
Okay, gotcha. Because that seemed to
Carter
be
Martin,
that was a hot button. Like, were they relatives? Were they not relatives? Was
no
hard
to
share
the same. They shared the same last name,
so
and
weird.
The first names of two of their sons were the same. You know, because Carter Martin, he was with Carter Martin Jr. and Douglas Martin.
Yep.
Bill Martin had Douglas Martin and Dennis Martin.
Mm-hmm.
So you had, you know, all these names that make it seem like they're the same family, but they're not. But this documentary got Douglas Martin from the other family,
the Alabama
on
Martins,
to actually talk about it. Yeah. And he specifically said when they were going away from the adults and they were going to spook them, and they, you know, obviously Dennis had his red shirt. They thought it would give him away. Mm-hmm. What they did was they just told him to go back to the parents, not sneak around anywhere. They just said, go back to the parents. And I thought that was significant in a way, you know, because before it kind of made it sound like they go find your own way.
Yeah.
You know, in the woods to jump out somewhere and spook them. But instead, they just told him to go back to them. And he never made it back. They said when they jumped out and spooked him, they expected he would already be there with them. And he wasn't. And, you know, that's some of the better firsthand testimony I've heard in this case. Yeah, it's on Hulu. I forget what the name of it's called.
I'm sure I'll find it. But so so we've been there. And now I'm more confused. Because if they told him go north and make your own way around, there's a way for him to get lost.
Right.
If they just told him go back to the trail shelter, all he needed to do was go downhill.
Right.
Like the shelter itself would not necessarily have been visible from where he was, but all he needed to do was go downhill.
Right.
To the south.
It gave him a more obvious
He could have gone past it.
Either that or could have gone the other direction.
Well, so that's the thing, is if they're up there at the top and they say, Dennis, go back to the shelter, they're going to know if he went the wrong way immediately.
Well, I'm thinking, so if they're fully at the top where we were, and he goes down that singular trail and then gets to the junction, and then forgets which direction the trail shelter was from that junction, it's possible he went down the southeastern way.
True.
And just kept going because he thought he still had to keep going and got lost that way. Fairly certain.
The trail was to the southeast.
Northeastern.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of where the sun was that morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, northeastern as opposed to southeastern.
So that would, in my opinion, probably take him out to Davenport Gap.
Yeah.
And towards Tremont, which lines up with the Key sighting and from what I think Key saw. On the other hand, if he did go straight down the hill and he just went past the shelter because he didn't see it, that would have taken him to Eagle Creek.
Yeah.
Weren't there footprints found around that area?
Yep. And guess who investigated those footprints?
Who?
Green Berets. That was not the Rangers. That was the Green Berets who got down there. The story from the Park Service or the FBI, I can't remember which report it was in, was like, well, it was the wrong shoe size. They didn't have a shoe to compare it to.
There was better detail in the newspapers on that one, I feel like. You know, I believe, wasn't it 1 foot bare and the other had a shoe on it? 1 foot bare,
one had a shoe on it.
Which would seemingly be something a child of his age might get into in a way, you know, like.
I mean, I could even see it being like he, took off his shoe because there was something in it and then dropped it.
Right.
Like, and then was like chasing it down the hill and got lost.
Yeah, 100%.
It could have been any number of things, but no. Hearing that it wasn't go that way and sneak around on them, but instead it was just go back to the shelter.
Right. It
That
kind of
makes
makes it a
the
little
Eagle-
more inexplicable. Yeah.
That makes the Eagle Creek thing way more feasible. Because I was so confused up there. I'm like, how do you take a wrong turn? If you're up at the trail and your plan is to come down from the north, you just do a little, it's like 200 yards and then south. Super weird.
Yeah, you guys have a little better perspective on it, having been there.
Yeah,
It
that
always
is.
helps.
Well, I was thinking about it, and I was looking at some of what you've done. And I was, it would probably help to go see, like, because I think I remember you were talking about Carl Lander specifically, and how that where he went missing is just a field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like if I was with someone and they were like, go hide somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it would take me like an hour or two to like get out of like, it's just that one. That's one of those ones where I'm starting to think weird paranormal stuff or something,
One of those where you're like, maybe it was Bigfoot.
I mean, and he's never been found. It's been like 10 years, nothing, how many, snow falls and snow melts have we gone through? Nothing, I mean,
there should have been something found by now.
No gear. Like,
the gear is the weird part to me, because a lot of hiking gear is brightly colored.
I know, he had a full backpack, all of his gear, crampons, stuff that will still be there today.
It's hard to disappear with that.
And everyone when I made that video, so many people were like, avalanche. It was obviously an avalanche. And I'm like, if you go to this mountain, basically people are just in a line going up. If there was an avalanche, there'd be some dead people and not just one missing guy, and people would notice.
Also, wasn't it the wrong time of year?
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's just, it's not feasible. Like there were so many people on the mountain that day. Someone would have been like, oh yeah, I remember seeing a huge avalanche that completely buried a man, and now he hasn't been found for 10 years.
Yeah, it would have to
be pretty big
off the mountain.
Right. It would have to have been big to like make him go missing for this long.
I don't know what it is with people in avalanches, but a lot of people seem to think anytime somebody goes missing or dies on a mountain, an avalanche had something to do with it.
Or the one time where most likely was an avalanche, it couldn't have been an avalanche.
Which one are you talking about?
Dyatlov
Pass. Yeah. Dyatlov Pass was not an avalanche. Like, definitively wasn't an avalanche. Was probably katabatic winds.
It's like one of those convenient excuses. They're on a mountain. Mountains are inherently kind of dangerous. Why? Because there's avalanches sometimes. So that's what happened.
Exactly.
Well, we learned from the Kamar Daban incident that avalanches arguably are not the most dangerous thing on a mountainside.
I'm gonna have to glare angrily at Isaiah next time I see him. I still haven't found a source for that weapons testing thing.
Did he not know about the wind?
He might not have. Well, here's the thing about Kamar Daban.
Oh, wait, real quick, Nick, are you familiar with this at all?
Is this the Dyatlov, like what, catabolic winds or something? What is it?
So Dyatlov was the one in the 50s. Kamar Daban was the 90s.
Oh,
and that was southern Russia instead of northern Russia.
Oh, okay.
It was a group of hikers, I think 7 hikers, 6 of them ended up dying. The one who survived, the story she told was like, these people just suddenly started going insane.
Oh, yeah, I have heard of that one. Wasn't that like the theory being like chemical weapons or something weird?
That's the really popular one, which is popular because of one of our good friends, and I simply disagree with him.
Well, it took us about, respect to anybody who researches. We all know how much effort it takes.
Yeah.
But he called me and he was like, this doesn't make sense. I don't see why it's chemical weapons. And then I was like, have you considered infrasound?
And then we looked into infrasound, and it turns out that katabatic winds can cause infrasound. And at a certain point, like one of the things was they talked about how there were morphological changes to the muscles and internal organs of the people who died. And they attributed it to starvation, even though these people were eating 2,400 calories a day.
And also hypothermia as well.
And they said starvation and hypothermia.
But the hypothermia...
Is there pretty good evidence for this case? Like, reports and anything like that? Or
Well, it happened in 1993 in Russia to a bunch of people who weren't Russian, so no.
Yeah.
There is...
That's my fear.
There is a single explanatory note because the Soviet spirit was still alive and well in the recreation industry in 1993 in Russia. But there's the single explanatory note from this one woman, Valentina Yudashenko, and she basically, in the note, it's, oh, well, the one guy, screamed and then collapsed and he was bleeding, and then the leader of the trip asked somebody to come help, so I went and helped, but then she died too, but then other people started dying, and then, I ended up, trying to save one last guy, but then I ran away. And I survived because I got out of there. 2018?
Yeah, if it wasn't there, it was plus or minus 1 or 2 years.
2018, she allegedly does an interview with Komsomolskaya Pravda. Got it. I had so much trouble. I had so much trouble.
There were a few takes when we were
Komsomolskaya Pravda. Yeah, there we go. Which is a tabloid. But it wasn't always a tabloid, and I can't tell, because I'm not Russian, if it's a tabloid in the sense of the format of the paper, or if it's a tabloid in the sense of the National Enquirer. So I don't know. A lot of Russian people were like, it's the National Enquirer. On the other hand, other Russian news sources that are legitimate referenced this interview in their coverage. Oh, that's an even worse frozen face.
Oh, no. Not again.
You look very unhappy.
You look like James Dean if he woke up from like 3 nights of not sleeping.
But so the interview she gives totally changes the story. She didn't try to help anyone. She was scared shitless. She was one of the younger people on the trip. She was like frozen in fear, and one of the guys who died ended up having to be like, hey, go, move, like get down the hill. She did. And then she's talking about how, like, it wasn't that they were awoken early in the morning or late in the morning by one of the guys being like, hey, we're all cold and wet. It was the leader of the group who woke them all up and went, hey, we need to get off this mountain right now. So the story totally changes in between.
Yep. And
Gotcha.
it seems to be that the reason why she survived was because she specifically crawled down the mountain after everybody started essentially collapsing.
Yeah.
And the reason why hypothermia doesn't make sense and why a few other of these ideas don't make sense.
Nobody was cold.
Well, it was nobody was cold, but also the rapid onset of all of the symptoms that occurred based on the...
Sorry. The frozen face changed again.
I'm going to pop out and pop back in. Give me 1 second.
Come on. I'm
so glad they can all see it too, so I'm not laughing at absolutely nothing. Oh boy.
Yeah, the comments are specifically, oh no, oh dear.
Nick, did you pop out? Or are you still here?
Do we
Someone
need to
get this man a Starlink connection?
Yeah, literally. Do we need to refresh it?
We might.
I'll give it a shot.
I think he was just joining back. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
We figured we'd refresh too, just in case.
Are you back?
Do we have you?
The technically difficult lodge.
The technical difficulties lodge.
Yeah. Nope. Was that my buzz? He's trying his best.
No one else is in this meeting.
He'll be back, I'm sure.
Well, now you're seeing what Nick was seeing, which is just a weird lopsided version of the other thing you're seeing.
I just sent him a couple of messages saying, you got this, I believe in you.
Incredible.
Hey!
There we go. You're good.
There we go.
No, I'm a reason to it. My internet connection's stable. I just go frozen.
I will have to send you the picture
Yeah.
of where you froze. Oh boy. Yeah, but what we were saying, yeah.
I'm just gonna remain stoic from now on. Just
There you go.
Yeah, the hypothermia was too rapid onset. They attributed the rapid onset to starvation, but the problem with starvation is that
they weren't
minimum, starving.
Yeah, they were eating minimum 2,400 calories a day.
Minimum 2,400 calories a day.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of hiking, but at the same time, that's probably a lot more than we ate the day that we hiked.
Yeah.
Up a much more difficult climb.
And the reason why the chemical weapons possibility seems unlikely is because
there's literally zero evidence that I could find that chemical weapons were ever tested there.
And there was a cyclone hitting the mountain that night, which means that beyond normal high winds of a mountaintop, they were exceptionally high winds in a large concentration of area, which means that a accurate dispersion or even an inaccurate dispersion of chemical weapons in a consistency or a density that would be that quickly and effectively lethal is incredibly unlikely.
If one or two of them had died, chemical weapons might seem realistic. If all of them had died, chemical weapons might seem realistic.
But
6 out of 7 is weird.
But even just in general with the conditions around it, for the chemical weapons to have been efficiently lethal in those conditions, it would have had to be such a large amount that literally would have had to go off or be dropped directly in the middle of them. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it would have had to be they walked over some kind of gas mine or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, this was not like just a random hiking expedition, and I regret not including this in the video because I think it would have made everybody understand a lot more clearly. But I also didn't know how to properly explain it because I didn't understand the concept. But the short version is this was part of a massive recreational event called like the Toriada or something. Can't remember the exact Russian term. So these were Cossack hikers in Russia as part of something where you had people hiking all over Russia, and specifically a lot of groups in this area. So there were at least 2 other groups within a couple of miles of them when all of this happened, and they were totally unaffected. So this one group is affected in this one spot. One of the weird things is, had they continued a couple hundred yards before camping out the night before, they would have been in a shelter. There was a retransmitter tower up on top of this one peak that had a shelter in it that they could have stayed at. Like that was expected that they were going to do that. There was firewood, there was water, there would have been some food supplies, and instead of going to the shelter, they stop and set up camp on a barren mountain slope. They don't, and the thing is, before that, they had been descending to the tree line to camp and then coming back up to hike. So they were going down to the tree line, camping, eating, going back up to the ridge, walking along the ridge. It makes no sense that they made that decision, but really what gets me is when you look at the symptoms as they are described. Wasn't starvation. Hypothermia only makes sense if you go by the 1990s version of events, which was not audio recorded. It was not a direct interview with her. It was basically they had her explain what happened. They then submitted a note on her behalf, which could have been edited.
And the key there was
that it's Russia in 1993.
Right.
Well, and also specifically the person that she reported this to was supposedly a guy who kind of had it in for the leader of this group.
Yeah, he did not like it's not Kolmogorova, that's the other trip.
That's the same name I thought of too. I don't know why.
Driving me nuts that I can't think of it. It started with K, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's because Lyudmila Kolmogorova was on the other trip, and this was a Lyudmila something else. But yeah, the guy who submitted the report was not a fan of her. Felt like she was reckless, and I, in my opinion, probably tried to turn this into a cautionary tale of why you shouldn't do what she did. But infrasound, as it turns out, at high enough intensity, can actually cause the adhesive bonds between your cells to break apart. It can literally shear you apart at the molecular level. And that's kind of what they describe in the medical examiner's report, is how their organs weren't right.
And that was the thing, because
but they do that without her being affected?
So that's the thing, is if it's sound waves, those are bouncy.
Well, and also it's my theory specifically with that is the reason I think she survived is because specifically she crawled. If it was katabatic winds that were coming down the mountainside at a high enough decibel level that was infrasound that could shear your tissue like that, the idea that if you're vertical and it's going through you back to front, it's very abrupt, that it's like it's a short span of your body to go through. not a lot of time to slow down, not a lot of things to, interfere with. But if you're horizontal and going with the direction of travel of the sound waves, then it gives time from your feet to your torso for those sound waves to slow within your body before getting to your, main internal organs. So I think it is.
She does say that she was confused.
Yeah.
So she wandered around the forest for 4 days.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be shocked if it affected her, but that may have been what saved her, at least based on this theory.
It also, based on the way it was all described, it sounds like she was one of the furthest down the mountain of the group as this was happening. So she may have just had a shorter distance to go. Several of the other people attempted to climb back up to help others. She went down the whole time. So other people were going up into it, and she wasn't.
I think one of the other reasons why we thought infrasound is because some of that the molecular shearing that occurred, that some people would have attributed to a chemical attack, occurred in parts of the bodies that wouldn't have been affected by chemical exposure.
Yeah.
Which is part of the other reason why we're like, all right, well, this sounds like the most likely thing.
Also, like the toxin that they were describing is specific. Like doesn't actually do everything that was claimed. I don't know why they would have hidden it. I don't know what the reasoning would be there. Maybe just to not have that kind of a black mark on.
I mean,
either that, I mean,
pretty secretive country.
And let's think about the times here. They weren't exactly that far out from yet another disaster.
There's a reason that they hid everything about that little thing that happened in April in 1986.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but that's another weird one that
that is a wild case.
Yeah. Very strange. There's one more that I want to look at.
There's another hiking incident in Russia.
Yeah. I think it's like Chivray or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
I'm excited. Honestly, those are probably some of my favorite cases that we've got.
I think that's a 70s one, so that's Soviet, if I'm not mistaken.
I will say, though, considering it's 8:05.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jordan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was meaning to get to that earlier. So, you entitled your video, Killed by a Sasquatch. I went a different route, mainly because I didn't want to steal your title. And I even said in the video, I was like, that caught me off guard because you're usually, I think, a little bit more skeptical than I am.
Well, it was killed by a Sasquatch question mark.
Of course.
Okay.
But, so, I figured it was probably something along those lines. But then, I watched through it, and from what I understand, you didn't come to a specific conclusion about what you think happened either.
No, I made that title because when I was researching for it, I found a lot of discussion online about the case that hinted at Sasquatch. So I was like, wow, when people are talking about like a death by a Sasquatch, they're bringing up this case on occasion. So I was like, all right,
take a look.
Oh, let's look at that, and I mean, it's kind of an inconclusive thing to me, that whole case. And so I can see why people would go the Sasquatch route because no explanation makes perfect sense, And I know we covered it a little bit in the last time we did a podcast, but I mean, what did you think about the case? What did you come to?
So we did use it as an opportunity to talk about the Wendigo,
as we so often do.
I wanted an opportunity to talk about the Wendigo. I had a new book. I had a new book about the Wendigo. But I mean, having studied the Wendigo probably more than most people at this point, I kind of came to the conclusion that if you look at the less mythical version of what that is, it does account for what happened. In that a Wendigo, in more historic than legendary terms, was perceived to be somebody who is, it was a cannibal, but cannibalism was perceived to be something that was so taboo that you had to be either possessed by a demon or an evil spirit. I mean, obviously using terms like that doesn't even really work for Christianity, as we've learned recently. But you have to be possessed by an evil spirit, or you have to be utterly insane, like to the point of being dangerous. And that's why the solution, there was no curing a Wendigo. You just kill them. There's no alternative. Which, interestingly enough, if you read the Old Testament of the Bible, it says the same thing about possession. If somebody's possessed, you have to kill them. Like, exorcism is a Christian thing. That's not a Jewish thing. So when you get to the historic encounters with quote-unquote Wendigos, what they are describing is people who are cannibals, and I mean, the pop culture term for it would be like they have the hunger. Like, they've consumed human flesh, now they constantly want more. So there is a kind of real-life version of this that is not some legendary, cannibal giant, but is instead somebody who is just obsessed with eating humans due to some sort of, I guess, problem in their brain. Because when I looked at, and the reason I got there is because I did my normal thing, which is I look at it, I'm like, okay, what are all of the mundane possibilities? None of those make sense. What's a little less mundane? And then kind of go from there. So, I mean, for me, and let me know what you think of this, the big things were, A, there's no tears in anything. So no tears in the tent, no tears in the hammock. All of the blood splatter is kind of concentrated in one area. Then obviously there's the bleeding that went down, but if you look at the splatter, that's like in an arc over where his head would have been. Wolves don't really do that. The actual wilderness experts were like, yeah, this wasn't a wolf or a bear, which reminded me of Bart Schleyer, where the RCMP is like, well, this was clearly a bear attack, and all of the bear experts are like, this was absolutely not a bear attack. What are you talking about? And I think what frustrated me most about it was the police just kind of went, I don't know.
Right. They didn't come to a conclusion.
Which is, I mean, the only other thing I can really think about is that is if you tie it back to the truck. Like somebody who was pissed that he parked his truck in front of the gate and they tracked him down and they murdered him. But even then, that seems excessive.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they would have had to like cut his throat in his, sleeping bag or something, right?
While he slept.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, if it wasn't somebody from town that he somehow pissed off before he went out there, the only thing that I would lead to, but again, I'm going to acknowledge this now, there are holes here, is just the complacency kills thing of him shaving, but then there's the issue of none of the knives had blood on them.
Yeah.
And like all of the what could have been bandages just don't really make sense for not having blood on them, and just the state in which they were compared to what he would have used them for. Like, there really is no good answer on this one.
I mean, I leaned more heavily to the shaving answer, even though, like you said, there are some flaws in that. I mean, sometimes I wondered, if you have a sharp enough knife and you cut yourself quick enough, there's not always blood on the blade.
Yeah, true.
And that, but
it was sheathed.
I believe. Oh yeah, right. All of them were sheathed. And would someone who cut themselves really severely sheathe their blade? Probably not. But yeah, some things you can't discount.
That's some like Monty Python level stuff.
Right.
Oh my, how quaint. Yeah, I will lay down and die.
'Tis but a flesh wound.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a really, it's one of those ones that not a lot of people had heard about, and I was surprised because there's no good solution to it, and it's like there's blood everywhere, and no one knows what happened, and that's it. The cops are like, we're done. We know he's not alive.
How is David Paulides not all over this one of all things?
I know, right?
Like,
yeah.
Of all the cases he has compiled, that is probably the closest one to what he's suggesting. What he's implying.
It really is. It fits his criteria perfectly.
And I'm like, dude, what?
He's just not heard about it yet?
Maybe. I mean, I hadn't heard about it until you mentioned it. One thing I wanted to run by you, because I was thinking about it. The timeline of events here. They're pretty positive he was dead by the 10th of October. One of the receipts, if I'm not mistaken, is dated for... So, no, he sends the text to his group chat of the spot he's camping on the 8th, if I remember correctly. His receipts are dated to the 9th. And then the last phone activity, I believe, was either late on the 9th or early on the 10th.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I'm confused as to why he left.
Why he left what?
Well, he gets to the campsite. because here's what I was thinking about. If you look at the directions, if he needed to go shopping, the closest town would have been Ely, I think. The closest town that would have had anything he needed would have been Ely. Then there was another one, which is where the Zups place was. I can't remember. It started with, I think, a C, but I'm not positive.
Was on the receipt?
Yeah. And
that
then
they photographed?
Yeah, and then there was Virginia, Minnesota. Virginia, Minnesota has a Walmart. What I was struggling with is putting together how this trip makes sense. If he goes to Virginia and passes through Ely, then he doesn't need to go north to the other place. If he goes west out of the Boundary Waters, stops at that one other place that's name is escaping me, and then goes south to Virginia, he doesn't need to go through Ely. So what was the driving pattern and why? And I'm wondering if there's any possibility that has to do with it. Is like, did he stop somewhere on that day, saw a cute girl at the register and was like chatting her up, and her boyfriend found out and went out and killed him? Like,
but even if he did encounter someone, I mean, you got to remember that where he was,
it's so remote.
For someone to go out there and find him on their own would be crazy, because remember, they actually sent people out looking for him and they couldn't find him. It took them like 7 months to actually run into him after, they called for his parents, I think, called for a welfare check. And
that was
they
the other
started
thing that I couldn't figure out was the police report just says that they, like, those officers have been out there for a welfare check, but it didn't say who called it.
Right. I got to assume it was the family, right?
That's kind of what I figured.
Right.
Because it was the 22nd.
And they probably hadn't heard from him in like 2 weeks and were probably worried. That's kind of what I assumed that was what was going on.
Yeah. And the only reason that I can think of that, it would be even plausible that somebody, fulfilled the scenario that you just described would be they would have had to actively follow him to the site that he was at.
Which just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, that would be, he would have had to do something either so egregious, or the person who he offended somehow would have had to been so unstable and on a hair trigger that either of those options in and of themselves are so unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be really dedicated to sneak out into because it would have to have been like at night while he was sleeping, obviously, to sneak out in the middle of those woods in the middle of the night and creep up on a guy, which, it's like, humans aren't really quiet when they're even trying to creep in the woods. You're snapping twigs, you're running it like.
And this was October. There were a lot of twigs to snap.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that would have taken. It's hard for me to like envision like a human wanting to kill someone that bad that they would go through this effort of doing a knife attack on a guy in the middle of the woods and trying to sneak up on him, wait until he falls asleep, and like. There's just so many things that would have to fall into. It's hard for me to imagine it. It really is.
It really only makes sense if somebody else is out there with him, and as far as we know, nobody was.
Right.
Which is just, it's so weird.
He was a loner. He was for the last like 10 to 12 years, alone in the woods.
What I will say, there were some aspects of that story looking through the reports on, his upbringing and his family life, that it was like, okay. There was some weirdness here. He did not. He had severe dyslexia, but it somehow wasn't diagnosed until he was 12.
Yeah.
He was dating a woman for a little while in Kentucky, and then wasn't, and then he was up in New York, and then he was in Minnesota. Totally unprepared. I mean, that was the part that really got me. Was he was barely prepped for a winter in Pennsylvania.
Which, when I was thinking about it, I mean, if this guy had spent a long time doing this in places up north there, I kind of figured maybe he's just good at roughing it like that,
I think he probably thought he was, but I was looking through it. The average temperature in the average like lowest temperature you get in the Adirondacks, which was the coldest place you'd camped before, was I think like 17 degrees higher than the average temperature in the Boundary Waters that time of year. So chances are, I mean, he could have died either way. Like,
Right, but whatever got him, it wasn't the weather.
exactly.
That's the thing, yeah, because my first thought when we started going through the case was, oh, it was hypothermia.
Yeah.
But then the only way for that to have worked is that he would have had to have died from hypothermia and then almost immediately been scavenged by something for the blood spatter to have occurred in that manner.
No, there wouldn't be blood spatter if he was dead.
Right.
If they like were ripping him apart or whatever, like, you know, there
But
might
then there
be,
would be
but
blood
then
everywhere.
there was.
But if
then you would
he died
expect
in
that-
his sleeping bag, there was a big blood pool in
Yeah.
like the sleeping bag. So it seemed like he was dead in there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which
And
again,
then for wolves to pull him even out of his hammock,
Mhm.
I can't imagine them being successful without tearing that thing to pieces.
Yeah, because
You know?
I mean, a wolf isn't gonna like gingerly try and like put. It's just gonna bite at things until you fall out.
Right.
Like, it's gonna rip and tear. I mean, I have a husky. It is a third the size. Still would be that destructive.
And wolf attacks very rare. Like-
Not a single, I think, recorded, like kill by a wolf in Minnesota in the last 120 years.
Yeah,
On a large
there
part
was
of-
only like one attack, and
Yeah.
that's it.
And it was by a wolf with a deformed jaw.
Exactly.
on a large part of it is because the wolf population in recent history has severely declined. I think it's on the rise again because
Yeah.
of reintroduction, but like,
Yeah.
There are wolves up there.
yeah, but just
Yeah.
nowhere near as many as they used to be.
No. At least not in the 1800s. That's the other thing I've been running into that I was not aware of is the predator populations in this country were kind of at their lowest in like the 50s through the 70s
Yeah, I can imagine.
because they were all basically hunted to extinction in
Right.
the
We
early
didn't
part of the
care
century.
about conservation as much.
Yeah, and then, they were like, "Oh, ooh, we killed all of them." One of the wild do you run into the thing where you'll be researching for a case and the Park Service or the Forest Service or the Department of Wildlife, whatever it is like, "Oh, there's absolutely no mountain lions here." And then all of the hunters in the area are like, "There are mountain lions here."
Yeah, I've discovered that they sometimes know very little
Mhm.
about an area.
And you wonder, like,
you know,
they got to be aware of it. It can't be just that they're, well, we've heard about it, but we haven't confirmed it yet. So you'd think they'd be like, there may or may not be mountain lions here.
well, for me, I always thought maybe it's just that the people I'm emailing are just like the pencil pusher versions
Yeah.
and not the ones that are in the field all
Yeah.
day, and maybe that's
probably,
why I'm
chances
getting
are.
bad info. Like, so
Chances are it's somebody with the Ranger getup who's sitting at a
Right.
desk in a nice air-conditioned
Yeah.
room like, "Oh, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
There's
you're
no
good."
mountain lions here."
yeah,
Meanwhile, Ranger Rick is over there like, "I shot one."
right.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, I think I kind of feel like I don't love the explanation that it was
Shaving.
because if it was, that means that he laid there long enough for a pool of blood to accumulate, but then got out of the tent on his own
Well,
and didn't bleed on anything that was found outside of the tent.
I'm still not totally convinced that something couldn't get him out of the hammock without ripping it to pieces. Primarily because if a frequent way in which predators will kill or grab something is by the neck, and if it's either a
Mhm.
mountain lion or a wolf, just comes in and goes and pulls. I can kind of see that, especially if it's something that's already dead. They're not going to need to put a lot of effort into it.
I mean, that's fair. I could. I would leave room for the possibility that a wolf could get a dead body out of a hammock.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would be able to kill him.
Well,
'Cause
that's
he
my
would
thing
fight.
is I don't think so in this scenario.
I mean,
it
he had
would
that
be-
gun too, even
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
defend himself.
That's the thing is I would only imagine that if he was already dead in the hammock, and the only thing I can imagine would be the scenario there is if he cut himself, realized how much he was bleeding, and just figured, oh, this is it.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing I can do right now. Like this is. He just essentially realized he cut himself on the neck somewhere that he had no means to fix, and just essentially resigned.
Right.
Which is sad, but that's the only thing I can imagine making even remote sense here.
Well, I mean, what else would you, if you cut yourself on the neck and you're having arterial spray and you're in the middle of the woods?
Yeah,
I mean, eventually you're just like, I just gotta lay down now.
yeah.
I mean, it's possible, but
It does seem silly to say, but
the wolf experts
weird-
didn't like it.
like weird and crazy deaths like that happen all the time, like stupid deaths that seem just like preposterous, that are just like, wow, how could that really, those things happen, even though they sound kind of ridiculous.
We should probably remember when we're researching that 1,000 Ways to Die was not a fictional show.
That's true.
There you go. And he liked to shave with sharp knives, that's not something everyone's into, but he liked to put sharp knives to his neck. And pristine little,
such a choice.
Yeah, but it's badass.
Like, don't get me wrong.
Pretty cool.
I feel so bad for Jordan and for his family, and it's a tragedy, but the dude was tempting fate. I mean, he went out into the Minnesota wilderness with nothing to eat but beans and rice.
I know, right?
To stay in a hammock in a place that gets to be in the negatives at night in the winter.
He was really living that John Wayne lifestyle.
Yeah, man. Like he could have. I firmly think if he had been out there another few weeks, he would have been like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Either that, or he would have severely refocused on what kind of materials he was bringing with him.
Yeah, it's just. I have almost frozen to death. It's not a fun experience. It's the kind of thing that it happens once and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. I'm out. I'm heading home.
Yeah, it's still one of those cases that's a big question mark.
Yeah.
I'll grant that.
I feel like 1 in like 20 of them is like
that.
It's just what the hell
It's
happened?
a pretty small amount. Yeah.
As a final question before we go to super chats,
because we definitely need to.
Yes, is considering we've been talking about a lot of weird ones, I want to get an answer from both of you, considering y'all are obviously the primary researchers here. What case sticks out the most, having been initially confusing, that once you researched it, you realized was probably the most straightforward thing you've come across?
We might have the same answer on this one. Well, the first one that really woke me up was Aaron Hedges.
Yeah.
Because it was presented as being so strange. And then when I had all the information, I was like, well, I don't really feel like this is that strange anymore. Like, there's a lot of context here that was missing.
I remember we did a video on that. One of the comments on the video was, you guys missed a lot of information. You should check out the Missing Enigmas video. I had not heard of you at the time. I went and I watched it and I was like, oh, wow. I was wrong. I was so far off because I was trusting David Politis too much.
Right.
And so that video is actually kind of what woke me up. Was your video on that case was like, oh, this wasn't nearly. I like went into it being like, no, he definitely missed something. You didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I put a lot into that one to make sure it was accurate because I was, calling into question someone who was a lot bigger than me at the time, obviously. And
yeah,
but there was a lot there that was missing, right? Mm-hmm. So but there's a few cases like that that usually it came from like, I remember I was a big fan of that Missing 411 The Hunted film.
It's a good movie until you know.
It is a great movie. It is a well-made movie. But when I started digging into those cases, man, like Stanley Vihill and stuff, that one too, I was like,
I don't even remember which one that was.
It's presented in the documentary as like he's a hunter going out with his friends, and then all of a sudden he just jumps out of the truck they're driving in and runs off into the woods, and they try chasing after him, but they can't find him, and then fog rolls in and he's never seen for a while, and then he turns up dead in a river like many miles to the south.
Not gonna lie, to me that sounds like his friends killed him, but
well, and that's all the information you get in that documentary. And when I dug into it a bit, it's like the whole middle part of it is missing in the story. Like,
okay,
there's documented evidence that Stanley Vihill showed up at a woman's house right after he vanished and was asking to call 911. And she was like, who's this strange guy? I'm not going to let you in and call 911. So she just sent him away. But she talked to investigators afterwards, and they brought dogs and they picked up Stanley's scent at her house. And then he's seen on security cameras in other areas. Like, and he said he was being chased. That's what he told this woman.
Yeah, it
He
sounds
said
like he was
someone
being chased
chasing
by
him.
his friends.
I was gonna say this
Right.
reminds me
There's
of
something
Brandon Lawson a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he turns up dead. And his sister contacted me, and she's like confident that someone killed him, and that they just didn't investigate it well enough. And so
That's
there's
weird,
just
isn't it? Getting family members who could reach out to you, and they're like, "Hey, saw your video about my brother. I wanted you to know."
right.
It's like, okay, thank you.
But
Very
it's one of those
surreal
things
moment.
where it's like, that it goes from like complete mystery to like, oh, someone probably killed him, which, according to the criteria for missing 411 would exclude it, right? Because criminal activity is an exclusionary, supposedly. So,
Yeah. Well, you must remember that for some reason, a lot of Germans are involved too.
Right. The Germans,
The most common ethnic background in the country.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, God, why is his name escaping me? It was the one, was it Rainier?
On Mount Rainier?
Eric Lewis. Eric Lewis is one of those that was up there for me, where it's like the way the story is presented by Politis, I can't imagine how this happened. And then you go read through the report. Yeah, this is the guy who was he was climbing with two of his buddies on Mount Rainier. It's really not even confirmed he was ever actually there, by the way. His buddies just said he was there. I don't recall if anybody else actually saw the guy. But it's the one where they were climbing up. They're at like 13,400 feet. They realize that the rope has gone slack. Like Eric's not beneath them. By the way, these guys are all in their 50s. There are a number of things that can happen to you that get more likely as you age, like heart attacks. Also, I mean, David Politis' version, the rope had been cut. In reality, he had a carabiner and he unclipped himself. In David Politis' version, there's the snow cave, and his gear is found in the snow cave. Well, in reality, there was a snow cave, and then there was his gear. They were in different places. No evidence he'd ever been in the snow cave. And then you go and you look at it. Not only was this like a time of year that they tell people you shouldn't climb the mountain, but also there are ravines and crevasses and all sorts of different places somebody could go missing. And I looked into it. I looked it up. There have been a number of other climbing deaths on that mountain that were exactly that. Somebody fell and they ended up in a place where they found these people, but they couldn't even get to them because they were just in a spot that it would be dangerous to recover the bodies from.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds to me like he had a medical emergency, unclipped himself, and got lost under a crevasse. And they just couldn't find the guy. It's not like they can get dogs up there to search for his scent. It's not like there would be anything found. I mean, if he took off his bag because he felt like he couldn't go with it any longer, there you have it. It's the same thing that happened to Mark Hansen, which, by the way, that's also up there. You look into the Mark Hansen one?
No, not yet. No.
It's on the Appalachian Trail. He and two other guys, Ben Fish, and I can't remember the other dude's name. He went home early. He got like a mile and a half in, and he was like, okay, I'm having a footwear problem. Like, my boots aren't working. I need to go home. They are like 2 days into the trip. Mark Hansen has never gone hiking before. And like, not just, never been on the Appalachian Trail. Never gone hiking. They get through the one trail shelter, and having been in these trail shelters, not the most comfortable night's sleep.
No.
I don't know how you did that without a pad of any kind. I was in pain, and I had a pad.
Oh, yeah, no, my hips were not happy with me in the morning.
I told you not to do that.
I didn't have a choice.
You did.
Where was I going to put the sleeping pad?
That's a great point. Anyway, Mark they're about halfway through that day's trip, and he goes, I can't do this anymore. I can't carry my pack. It's too heavy. I need to put it down. And Fish carries it for a little while, allegedly. Then he drops it because he can't carry two people's backpacks. Then they end up, according to him, Mark got to a certain point where he just goes, I can't. He just lays down in the snow. And Fish, instead of doing the intelligent thing, which would have been to try and, clear out the area to keep it as dry as possible, lay something out underneath them, and then, huddle in his sleeping bag for warmth. Mark is like, oh, I'm just going to, or not Mark, Ben is like, I'm just going to go ahead. Just going to go ahead and find the shelter, and we'll see how far ahead it is, and then I'll come back and grab you. And then, in the morning when he goes to get him, Mark's not there. And they find his body, like, down the mountain a little ways. And you're like, oh, he tried to get off the mountain. He did not succeed.
The end.
Jeff Haig's the same way, but in that case, it sounds like he was bullied into going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Which is tragic. Use the buddy system, guys.
There's always a little more to learn about cases.
Yep.
Not most of the time there is, if you have a case and you just get half the information on it, it's easy to be like, wow, this is strange.
Yep.
And so there's usually a little more. Like if there's a case and it seems like a little too basic, there's just not enough detail. I'm usually a bit skeptical of that now.
Yeah.
Like I need a little more, like,
If there's not at least a newspaper report about it, I just discount it as not happening.
Right. Me too. Yeah.
Like, if the only evidence that it happened is some person said so, chances are it didn't happen, or if it did, it did not happen in that way. Saw that with we looked into the land between the lakes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this sounds very familiar.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about that one. The beast of the land between the lakes that allegedly murdered a family of 4 back in the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You get a lot of stories and no evidence.
Well, it's not just a lot of stories. A lot of really interesting stories told in a very interesting manner on what website was it again?
Guardian Tales.
Yes.
Well, we did have somebody comment who said that they knew Jan Thompson. Oh, it was Cryptic Kentucky. She said that she knew Jan Thompson. So I invited her to come on sometime too, because I would love to actually pick somebody's brain about that who's from the area.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I don't believe that Jan Thompson. I fully believe that she heard the story she told. Not sure that she heard it from 2 cops on the night that it happened. So, also, somebody even pointed out, they were like, there aren't gas stations where she described working at a gas station. Granted, it was the 80s.
The thing that threw me off is the whole story is written like a short story.
It's like something you'd read on
prose.
But not wonderful. But yeah, I don't want to keep you super duper long in case you got stuff to do. So I want to grab some questions.
Yeah, I'll stick with the
the most relevant ones to Nick, so that if he has to dip out early, he can.
Yep. I'm sorry, this is the first one my eyes landed on. This is not directly relevant, but just by the name, it's from William Martin for $20, and it says,
Frightening.
Aiden Mattis sold me Fent.
Listen, it was a different life. It was a different time. I had some people to pay.
Simply by the name, it had to be said.
Yeah, I broke bad.
Hang on 1 second.
It's not that hard to find if you go to the right place. North Philly, you basically just, pick anybody's pocket. You'll find something.
Seattle too.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's true. The Castman 777 for 200 yen, specifically saying there is no enigma on why we love missing enigma.
That's true.
It's so true.
Thank you, sir. Very kind.
And then Vampire from Pluto for $5 is asking, does Missing Enigma belong to Mount Rushmore 2.0? Call back to last stream.
Oh, God, I can't remember who else was on Mount Rushmore 2.0?
I think it was just a bunch of, historian research YouTube people.
Probably, yeah.
On there?
I'll put you on that.
You wanted to make it at the cult, so.
Right. The ranch.
No.
We're in disagreement about whether or not the ranch we want to build is going to be a cult or not.
No.
We both agree it's not going to be a cult, but he thinks that if I say it's a cult, then it won't be a cult. But if I say it's not a cult, it will be a cult.
Because how do you describe it?
It would be a large ranch that I would own, and everybody else that lives there has to apply to make sure that they're not going to cause trouble. And then they will get a couple of acres, and all they had to do is pay the property taxes. I don't see the negative aspect.
We'd
have a mayor, and we'd have elections, and the elections would be rigged, so I'm always the mayor.
And
I don't remember the other part of this. What are you talking about?
just that essentially it would be like, it's not.
Are you
so
talking about
much
the neo-feudalism thing?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that.
Well, I don't see the problem with that.
No. But when you put them all together, if you don't call it a cult,
I'm not going to be a religious leader. I'll just have one who does what I say.
you literally at one point said, "And when I become a prophet."
No, I said I wasn't going to become a prophet. Archie's going to be the prophet. Archie, come here, buddy.
Anyway, so it's a cult.
Sounds like you got a lot to work out.
Yeah, it's a cult.
See?
Elena de Haller, Werewolf Queen for $9.99 is giving us love to us and Nick to put sword something nice.
Thank you. Archie, put your tongue back in your mouth. What are you doing? Put that back. It's dry. Why is it dry? That's gross.
She's also asking for another $10. Nick, what are your thoughts on Polly Melton's case?
Have you looked at it?
I have not looked at it thoroughly enough. That's the other one in the Smoky Mountains, right?
It's another one of them, yeah. Very weird. That's one where we like
Genuinely weird.
Yeah, but for a different reason entirely, which is that it's really hard to go missing on that trail.
Okay.
You would have to try. It's paved. And there's like 80-degree slopes on both sides.
She was an older woman, right?
58, yeah.
Okay.
We had a lot of like women who were between the ages of 57 and 59 who were not appreciative of the way I told that story.
Oh, I bet not. Yeah.
Yeah. Which granted, like, I don't think I said anything incorrect. I was like, well, she was an older woman who went missing in the 80s, probably wore a lot of perfume, so you would think scent dogs would be able to find her.
Any health conditions?
Oh,
Mental
hypertension, two-pack-a-day smoker, was on her third marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in there. Her husband was 20 years older than her.
We're building a case. Okay.
Yeah, it was all. So, I mean, the one argument was, maybe she disappeared, like on purpose. Maybe she ran off with somebody, but anybody she knew disappeared. So it was
it kind of reminded me of Karen Sykes, which was a similar one in Mount Rainier. About the same age of a woman but she was found later in an area that seemed kind of improbable.
Was this the one where it was like a lake basin?
Yeah, I think it was it was on the Owaihi Lakes Trail. Yeah.
Okay.
In Mount Rainier.
I might remember this one then.
Yeah, and in that one, I didn't say it in the video because I got the information privately and didn't want to like reveal it, but there was strong indications that she disappeared because of personal problems,
Gotcha.
And so it's something that happens,
It does happen.
All right, I do. Another one came in from Tyler Dalrymple for 556. Love the specificity over there, saying it's coming back to our theory that we kind of briefly touched on about the ring potentially being a usage of currency to leave a paper trail non-existent. Just wanted to expand upon that, just seeing if that would be a viable explanation for it.
For her having the ring?
Yeah, for Gibson having the ring. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, if she had it, it was worth a good sum for the 70s.
$600 in the 70s.
As long as the rumors that she didn't have it were not true. Because if a classmate had it, then that brings up a whole other can of worms into like, how did they get it? And how are they involved? Again, it comes back to the rumors that are in the case that kind of just start throwing wrenches into things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. This one isn't directly related, but I do have a point to go along with it. Aiden Patco for $4.99 says, do y'all have any plans to venture out to Montana for this series? If so, I have stories and locations for you. And I was the reason.
Yes, actually.
we do. We want to go out there soon, but this is reminding me.
We are going out there.
Montana?
Yeah. Next summer.
Oh, right. Does that go through Montana?
It's in Yellowstone.
Yellowstone. Right. Sorry, I was thinking of the Donner Party track.
No.
But that is also reminding me. Was talking to my friend Rob, who lives in Salt Lake, and goes a lot through Montana, Wyoming, or whatever for work. One hiccup for the cult. It is winter from September to May in Montana and Wyoming.
That's how State College was.
No. I mean like frozen roads, snow, like truly like below freezing.
I don't think you understand how cold it was in State College, Pennsylvania.
Dude, I visited you multiple times. It was not that cold. Not Montana cold and not that long.
It depended. It depends on when you're there. There were
It's a beautiful state, at least,
It's a
in
beautiful
both
state,
winter
dude,
and summer.
It's kind of like Adirondacks versus Minnesota.
Actually, maybe I should specify Western Montana is a beautiful part
Eastern
of the state.
Montana is a grassland.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. It's frigid there.
Coats.
All right.
Also, I mean, Aiden, it used to dump 3 feet of snow on us every December here. I don't know if we've gotten 3 feet of snow in the last 5 years.
Right, but when I was in Montana like 4 years ago in late May, we woke up to 4 inches of snow on the car.
I don't think you understand how excited that makes me.
You hate the cold.
But I love the snow.
All right, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure you were aware.
Also, I don't hate the cold. I hate being cold.
How do you get cold?
Usually by not dressing properly for it.
Okay. All right.
I want to ride a horse.
I know you do.
And I want to have a rifle. A nice lever action rifle. I found the one I want.
Another one from Finn Riley for $9.99 saying, longtime follower, first-time chatter, huge fan of the channels and the work that you three do. I'm curious if y'all plan on coming out to the West to check out Garrett Bardsley. The Uintas are pretty spooky.
I was honestly thinking that on our way back from the Donner Party one, that might not be a bad plan.
I went out there this summer. I filmed it already. I just haven't edited it all together. That was one of the worst hikes I ever did.
Garrett Bardsley?
By far. Yeah.
Really?
How long was it?
It's not the length. It's the fact that the Uintas at the start of the trail, you're starting at like 10,000 feet.
Oh.
Wow.
It's really high elevation. And I coming back down that trail, I was so sick. Worst headache I've ever had in my life. And I was like vomiting. It was so bad.
Yeah, I guess you probably got to acclimate.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
Did you just do it? You just raw dogged it?
Yeah. Well, I suffered greatly. And,
oh, brutal.
And luckily I didn't have to do the driving because I was like pretty much out of commission by the time I got to the car.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, I got up there and I did the filming up by the lakes up there, and I was doing all right, but after a while it just creeps up on you.
Yeah.
And it's deadly.
So when we did our video on that, it was a while ago. I was not as good at this as I am now. I was struggling to figure out where the hell he was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there, I think in David Politis' version of things, it was like the lake they were at was only 150 feet.
Absolutely incorrect.
And I remember looking at the map and I was like, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah. And it's been a while since I looked at it. There's like 3 lakes up there.
Yeah.
And I think I want to say he was at lake number. They're like numbered. I think he was at number 2 or something.
Yeah, it's 6 of them.
He was definitely far enough away from the camp that he could have gotten lost. Mm-hmm. And you have to go through a thick area of woods to get to the camp. And
so you were able to find the exact campsite.
Yeah, but the thing is like I easily could see how he could get lost because when you're at that lake and you're trying to find the trail, you can't see it. Mm-hmm. It's like I got lost trying to get to the lake on the trail. The trail just disappears.
Gotcha.
And then you kind of like find it again sometimes. And then, it's just being there for a short time. I was like, wow, it's really easy to get lost on this relatively short trip. It is a short trip, like a few hundred yards at least, but through thick, there's strangeness to that case as well, because getting out of that area in general is what's kind of weird because it's relatively enclosed. Unless you decide to fall.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, the way it's set up, it's almost like a little plateau that has these 3 lakes in the camp, and it's surrounded by either like steep cliffs that go up or ones that go down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not doing that, you're taking the trail out of there on the ridge line.
Right.
And they put people in there and they searched all this area really well, and they didn't find him. And so, in terms of like search area, you would think it was a pretty small area
Mm-hmm.
to look, and they didn't find him, and they haven't found him, and it's rather bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's so frustrating that like the thing that had me the most confused about that case was how he got lost. And now, you having been up there, that's not confusing, but it's still somehow confusing.
Right. Like I could see how he could get lost, but not to the point of not being found.
Yeah. Because you would think like in an area like that, you'd think you'd be able to hear people calling out for you.
Yeah, they
especially if you got several dozen
around the lake and stuff. Like I just don't know how he could have gotten so far away. Frankly, when I did that hike, I was like, wow, they take kids up here? Like, this is hard. Like, it's like they must have been well acclimated. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess Salt Lake City and stuff is at a higher elevation than I live at. It's like probably like 5,000 feet or something,
which is
higher.
wild because I think that's like the highest I've ever hiked was 5,000 feet. It's the highest I've ever actually been.
Yeah. So if you do the hike and you go into the Uintas, like, it takes a little time. Like otherwise, like...
you've been there. Like, well, it's good. I'm good knowing what I know now.
Coming back, I encountered multiple people on the trail that were just like dying.
Yeah,
from the altitude. It was wild. I was like, they were asking me to, like, when I got to the cars, to tell their friends to come and help get this man who was down on the trail, and I was like, okay, I'll help you. I'm like dying myself, like half conscious, and I'm like, I'll send help. And it's just like, wow, this is a good place to take Boy Scouts.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a way to get them out there.
Yeah. They built them tougher back in the day.
Yeah. It was only 2004. Dude, that was the wild thing about that case. I was a Boy Scout at the time. Well, Cub Scout. But yeah, that one, and Michael Aubrey was another one who he's only 2 years older than me. And I was looking at his case, and I mean, it's obvious what happened to him. Because he said what happened to him. He was like, I just really didn't want to be camping anymore. So I tried to get out to the road so I could hitchhike my way home. Now, keep in mind, this was like 2008. Not really a time when I think kids were hitchhiking frequently. I knew not to hitchhike in 2008. I was only 2 years younger than the guy. I was a scout at the time. I had been on camping trips that were very similar to the one he described. I get it. I get why he was like, I don't want to be here anymore. What I don't get is trying to get out and hitchhike, but I don't think that was like weird. I think that's just bad decision making.
Yeah, it's amazing how a lot of bad decision making plays into a lot of the things we cover.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next is two-parter from Frost. One is for $30.06. The other from $55.06.
Very specific.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the first one was for 30-06 kind of deal. Saying, hello, Aidens. I found your guys' channel in the last year. I've probably binged most of it twice at a minimum at this point.
Thank you.
I got a few coworkers into it, too.
Aww.
A quick question and a follow-up super, which is... I joined the Patreon because the novella sounded cool. I was wondering how the process to get it goes. It was a digital version. Was there something I needed to do to reach out? If y'all are too just busy, no problem. Just wanted to make sure it was set.
I'm pretty sure it's just on there.
If not, we can definitely check.
I'm almost positive that as soon as you subscribe to the Patreon, you just have access to it. So
yep.
Let me really quickly check. Pull up my Patreon app.
And then as you do that, another one from Michael P. for $50.02. Loving the 50 specificity ones. Thank you very much. Patron of both the Lodge and the Missing Enigma. Congrats to the Missing Enigma on solving the Dale Stelling case. And my thanks to the Lore Lodge for all the work on the Sebastian Rogers. Nick, my apologies for inverting your name in a Patreon message. It happens at the age of 52, but I'm sorry.
No worries. I remember you.
Tell us a little more about the Dale Stelling case. What was that deal, and what did you figure out?
I think that's one I've covered almost as much as I have Dennis Martin. That was one that took place in Mesa Verde. Guy in his 50s, he was in the park for a day, just like with his family. But his family weren't big hikers, and Mesa Verde, you can see a lot of it from your car. It's like a lot of old Puebloan ruins and stuff. A lot of really cool stuff. It's an awesome park, one of my all-time favorites. But Dale wanted to do some hiking on this day, and he had to do it alone. His family wasn't interested. And so he hiked this thing called the Petroglyph Trail, which kind of runs along a canyon for the first half. And then you climb up the canyon wall and then head back towards a museum, which is the starting point. And the highlight of the trail is these petroglyphs, which are like cave drawings kind of thing, symbols and stuff that are drawn into the wall of the canyon. Anyway, Dale hiked this trail and he didn't come back.
I remember this one.
Yeah, this was covered by Politis in like a TV show pilot he did, and they kind of theorized that Dale got sucked into a portal or something.
Well, I mean, that's the only possible option.
It's the most likely for sure.
And they searched for him. There was a few weird things during the search where people said they heard calls for help, but they couldn't find him. And anyway, long story short, he eventually did turn up in 2020. They found his remains, but the Park Service did not specify where they found him. And they just said he was found in a remote part of the park, east of the town of Durango, or west of the town of Durango, which is a town. It's basically, if you didn't want to specify at all, you would just say this. I mean, it's like a meaningless location. It means absolutely nothing.
My guess is that they probably didn't. If I were to offer a mundane reason for that, it's probably that they didn't want people going out there because it's a dangerous place to be.
Maybe.
Like, a lot of people had
a lot of people had a lot of theories about why they kind of did this thing where they didn't want to name the location. But they found his skeleton, at least, in like his wallet with, his ID and stuff. And it was a guy who was hiking off trail who did an anonymous phone call, or anonymous email to the Park Service about where he found the remains. So some guy was wandering out in the park. And so everything about it seemed odd. And I contacted the Park Service about getting the report in 2020. And there's this long story about me dealing with them. Basically, they just started ignoring me completely. I was hounding them, and for 3 years, they just ignored me entirely until I started filing paperwork to appeal it to like their superiors in the Department of the Interior. And then all of a sudden they were pretty quick to answer me. And they finally gave me like the reports on how he was found and where he was found. And I can see why they kind of hid it, because they hid a lot of kind of things that don't make the park look very good.
Oh,
he was found in an area that was like really close to a road and really close to an important site that has ruins and people visit. And he was found in this canyon area just right next to it. But the things not many people or anyone really knew was that there was another family that was right behind Dale on the trail, and they had seen him. And when they got to the point where he must have disappeared, there was this sign with an arrow pointing in the wrong direction. It pointed down the canyon, into the canyon. You're supposed to go up to the top of the canyon.
Right.
And the family started following the wrong direction down into the canyon, but they realized it was the wrong way. And so they went back, turned the arrow on the sign around, and went up the correct way.
Which, of course, would make it very difficult to find somebody if you weren't aware the sign had been turned the wrong way.
Right. And his family described Dale as a guy who would just walk without paying much attention to anything.
It's like Kenny Beach.
He would just walk. And if there's an arrow pointing him down into the canyon, his family said he didn't like to scramble up. So it probably looked ideal to him, And if he got to the bottom and looked up and he didn't like scrambling up wall, So what happened, and it made sense, like he just started walking. He just started walking up the canyon until he died,
Just
And
exposure?
yeah, it's really hot. Mesa
Yeah.
Verde, that time of year, it's
Oh, I'm
really
sure.
hot. One of the things that was weird, though, is that he did have a lighter and he didn't use it at all to light a signal fire or anything like that.
Might not have thought to.
Certainly possible. There's a few other things related to it that were unknown, but yeah, it didn't make sense to me that the park was so concerned about where his remains were found. But in the end, they described it as remote. It was like anything but remote, right next to a road, almost right next to some ruins where people visit. And it seems that, if you look at when he first disappeared, where they put the park rangers to kind of be on the lookout, they completely overlooked and ignored the fact that he might have fallen into the canyon and started just walking straight up. They just ignored it, And if they would have had someone stationed down there, like
They would have found him.
Got him.
Yep.
And so they're, between the arrow on the sign and them kind of, there was so much more to the case than the Park Service initially said. And it turned a case that was, Politis was talking about portals into something that was much more human,
Yeah.
And
you would think, having been a former police officer, that he would be aware that sometimes law enforcement maybe fudges things a little bit.
You would think.
And that might be an option to look into. Also, really quickly, I did just want to address the question about we went camping. If it's, I think there's a tag that lets you find it. I'll have to make it a little bit easier to find, but I need the computer to do that. So if you just scroll down to the earliest part of the page, it's there. It's just a PDF. It'll be a nice big graphic. It says we went camping. There's an elk on the cover, and you will see it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Next is from Ryan Whitcup for $5.37.
Thank you, Ryan.
Love the specificity. Saying, trying to get myself to read more. What books do you recommend? Just picked up Empire of the Summer Moon.
Ooh, I've heard that one's good. It's one about the Comanche, I think. Ooh, I mean, it really depends on what kind of genre you're looking for, man. I mean, I will say, definitely more on the, I don't know what your reading level is like, but I mean, one of my favorite series of all time, even going back to reread as an adult, is Ranger's Apprentice. Ranger's Apprentice books were phenomenal stories. A little bit juvenile now as an adult, but very accessible, good stories, good entry to the low fantasy genre. Can't say enough good things about John Flanagan's work. Other than that, I'm trying to think of books I've read recently, because I haven't really read books recently because everything I read is for work. I will say Steve Thomas's book on JonBenet Ramsey. I think it's I think it's called JonBenet Inside. If you look up Steve Thomas JonBenet Ramsey book, you'll find it. Written a lot like a crime novel, like a detective novel, but it's a true story. Phenomenal book on that subject. I'm trying to think of other stuff I've read in recent years that isn't mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, if it very much depends on the genre. If you're looking for something that's in this realm, those are good options. If you're looking for something that's just generally interesting, there's a book called The Precipice I read not too long ago, I think on our flight back from somewhere. Very good book. The Bomber Mafia, I will always recommend. It was a great Malcolm Gladwell book. And right now I'm reading a book called Eve, which Kat recommended to me. It's a really interesting kind of delve into the evolutionary biology of women in particular. And as a man who does not innately have a lot of good understanding of that, it's an enlightening read.
Holes.
Also a good book.
A good book.
Nick, you got any recommendations?
Like you said, it really depends on the genre. I mean,
whatever
I don't
you
know
want.
if you're going for I mean, Aiden said, I most of the reading I do these days is for the channel and stuff, so I don't do a lot of it in my private time. Back in the day, though, if I was looking for fantasy or something, any of the works of Robert E. Howard, I was a big fan of.
Yeah, if I will say for fantasy stuff, off the beaten path, Piers Anthony, Chronicles of Xanth. It takes place in fantasy Florida. I'm not kidding. It is Florida in an alternate dimension with ogres and dragons and centaurs and magic.
I love it.
And there is a pathway between Florida and Xanth.
Oh, you mean like a certain story that you may have devised that we
Oh
haven't
yeah,
finished?
not totally unlike that.
Yeah.
That's the entire. There's a ton of them. There are so many, but they're really good. Good medieval high fantasy. Just it takes place in Florida.
Amazing.
So Lake Okeechobee is Lake Okeechobee.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Real quick, we have 2 recommendations for cases. One from Landon Harrison for $1.99 saying, please consider looking into the Justin Gaines case.
All right.
Nick, have you heard of that one?
Justin Gaines.
Unfamiliar.
And then Michael P. for an 1111 is asking us to consider a video that's actually on our list of things to look into.
Oh.
Which is Flight TWA 800, 100 live eyewitness accounts, and Air National Guard major and later commercial pilots who swore they saw a missile, FBI investigation, and a CIA animation, something about Great Doubt. But yeah, no, I mean, that is something that we have considered.
I don't remember
looking
this.
into. Yeah. It's we got a bunch of recommendations about it after we did MH370 last year, and so we'd put it on the docket.
I will say I think I want to look into MH17.
Yeah, that was the other one that we got. It was MH17 and then TWA 800.
Because at first I was like, oh, that one's obvious. It was shot down by Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was flying over an active war zone. Not really mysterious. And then I found out that apparently they just found a pile of perfectly intact passports. Yeah, you know how 9/11, they're like, oh man, it's so weird how these passports survived. It's like that on steroids.
I did not know that was an element of 9/11.
Oh yeah, they found several of the hijackers' passports. It's one of those things where they're like, it's one of the few pieces of evidence with 9/11 where I'm like, I see where you're coming from with the people who say it was like fake or charges or whatever.
You've never done a video on that?
I have not, and I don't think I'm going to.
Well, I would imagine
Probably
like,
smart.
If we ever had the money to,
If I was 10 years older, I would.
if we had the ability to recreate like 10 floors
9/11.
of the building and then launch a like personless plane into it to prove the point that jet fuel can in fact get that hot when burning with everything that comprises an office building.
Well, that's the thing that pisses me off about the jet fuel can't melt steel beams. It can't reduce them to a liquid form. It can soften them. And when you soften a bunch of steel beams, guess what they all do?
Especially when they have like hundreds of tons, if not thousands of tons of weight above them.
I love the people who are like, well, the buildings were designed to resist an airplane strike. Yeah, for a Cessna.
Yeah.
Not a fully loaded 747 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it was like a 737 with full passengers and also full fuel.
Yeah. Like it had just taken off.
Yeah.
Not a mystery. Do
What
I think
about
the CIA
Building
knew? We see. This is one that we
I was
disagree
literally
on.
just going to
This
say.
is one we disagree on. I think Building 7 is sketchy as hell.
I'm not saying it's not sketchy. It makes sense that it's possible that it happened naturally, but
Yeah.
it is weird. I'm not fully disagreeing with you on that.
I think the thermite one is one of the funniest things. They're like, well, they found thermite. It's like, yeah, thermite can occur naturally under those circumstances. Like, the combination of chemicals involved here. And also there's certain things in the building that used thermite, if I remember correctly. Or like when these two compounds interact, they form thermite.
It's like thermite's like magnesium and aluminum, isn't it?
I don't know the details. I just remember that it was like, I read a report that was like, yeah, no, thermite could absolutely occur without being planted in that area. Building 7, though, and here's where I think there is possibly a legitimate conspiracy about 9/11. how do I say this? I think the CIA very well knew this was going to happen, and I think they could have stopped it. I think Dick Cheney told them not to.
Oh wow, Dick Cheney deciding to do something that is directly against the direct interests of the American public for his own purposes.
Yeah, I mean it runs in the family.
I'm shocked.
It runs in the family. But
He's a
so I
great
think
hunter,
Dick Cheney
though.
probably said no, and then I think maybe he made sure certain people were tipped off about it, who might benefit.
He's a great hunter unless he's trying to distinguish between a human face and a quail, though.
Yeah.
Depends on what he's hunting that day.
Oh,
what a piece of dirt person.
the movie Vice was great.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Cheney's still alive, right?
Yeah,
That's
he's still
that's sad.
he's still around somewhere. But have you seen Vice? Have you guys seen the movie Vice?
I haven't. No.
No.
It's Christian Bale playing Dick Cheney.
Oh, good God.
It's a biopic about Dick Cheney, and it's Christian Bale just being Patrick Bateman, but worse.
So Dick Cheney.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, are there any more that would be Nick specific? Because I'm sure it's.
Well, there's this one for $100 from TIE Fighter 41.
Probably answer that one.
Saying, wanted to show my appreciation to you guys for the entertainment y'all give me during the 10 to 12 hour shifts I spend building F-150s. Thank you guys for keeping up the good work.
Thank you.
Do
you want to fix his F-350?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, well, I've got a 350 that you could help with. I have a great shop in town that's doing the work for that. But yeah, if you ever want to like do some mods or anything, let me know. Yeah, generally in terms of all three of us, we've gotten most of them. A lot of them are more just general comments. Also, we have a lot of them.
Yeah.
So we do have one from Rifleman 1002 for $10 saying
Directed at you.
Yep. For Nick, I have to say the most confounding and terrifying disappearance is Brandon Swanson. Dude vanished in a very flat plane and was completely wrong where he thought he was, even while drunk.
Are you familiar with this one?
Maybe vaguely. Is that? Can you give me the quick rundown on it?
So first thing first, Brandon Lawson and Brandon Swanson are different disappearances.
Right, I get those mixed up
yeah, a lot
sometimes.
of
That's why I'm
people do.
asking for clarification.
So Brandon Swanson was Minnesota. It was Lyon County, southwest Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. He
Wait,
was
Lawson or Swanson?
Swanson.
Okay, yeah, I did contact the Lyons County Sheriff about that one, but he says he doesn't want to give up any information or talk about it.
It's crazy how they never want to do that. I always think, maybe some of these small town sheriffs are not as
That's
incompetent
one where
as we think.
he was on the phone with
Yep.
his family, right?
He's
and,
on. He
and
left
they were
the
looking
rundown.
for him, and yeah, that's that reeks of foul play in some way.
Yeah, I was looking at it. If I remember correctly, I was like, okay, well, the town he would have seen is not the right direction for him to end up falling into the creek. They also never found him in the creek, even though they chained off and netted off the creek to try and find him. They never found him on any of the farms around. They never found him in any old wells. There was an abandoned farm. He wasn't there. Now, him getting lost isn't necessarily as weird as it sounds because he was drinking. He was under the influence. He was definitely should have been qualified as drinking and driving. His friends were all like, oh, no, yeah, I mean, he only had one or two drinks, but they were probably just trying to protect him in case he was found alive because he already did have a DUI. If I remember correctly, he was also he was blind in one eye or something.
Swanson?
Yeah. He had some sort of physical disability with one of his senses. I can't remember which.
That checks out. I'm remembering
He's
a
either
picture
deaf
of
in
him.
one ear or blind in one eye.
I think it might have been deaf in one ear because remembering his face, there was nothing externally noticeable
Well, I think
about
it was
his eyes.
more legally blind.
That's also
you wouldn't be
possible.
able to see it.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah. It's a weird one. It's definitely a weird one.
Also, last one for Nick in particular, Finn Riley for $10 is saying he appreciates you talking about recovery. He just hit a year and 3 months and wanted to say how nice it is seeing somebody else chat about it. So big thank you from him.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Keep up the good work. Now, it only felt right to do that because in the Dale Stelling case, some of the new information I discovered on him was that he was a recovering addict and turns out he was on methadone while he was at the park. His wife contacted me just a few days ago and talked to me about it, but I didn't want to out the guy without I was like, you know what, I'm out myself, and I'll just do the both of us.
Yeah.
As I got 6 years clean myself, pal, and so
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
stick to it, you know, and life only gets better.
You're a better man than we are, that's for sure.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. What are you trying to say?
You drink way too heavily.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's not really the same thing as
No, I know.
what you take methadone. Okay.
No, it doesn't change the fact that he's a better man than we are.
Oh yeah, definitely. Methadone is the prescription one that's supposed to diminish your cravings, right?
It's for people that are addicted to opiates. Basically, it kind of levels you out and it makes you more stable. But the goal is usually to kind of get you off it eventually, lower the dosage over time until you're no longer on it.
Yeah.
But Dale had something like 13 or 17 back surgeries, so he was in a lot of pain.
Wow.
And that was right around the time where Oxy was everywhere. And so I mentioned in the video that was probably what happened, and it was, a lot of people. It happened to so many people, as we know. So not unusual.
Yeah, the show, what was it, Dope Sick?
Yeah.
Did a really good job of showing how that became such an insane, epidemic in a lot of different communities. I don't know if have you ever seen it?
I haven't, no.
I think it's on Hulu. It's like a 6-part miniseries. Michael Keaton's in it, a number of different people, and it just kind of goes through the family that created it and the steps they took to make sure nobody knew how bad it was, and the effects it had on both the patients who were prescribed it and the impact it had on the doctors who were prescribing it, specifically because they were never told the risks. And they were blatantly lied to. So then they were prescribing it fully ignorant to, the consequences of what they were doing, purely because there was no system in place for them to even have the ability to find out on their own. Really uncovers how horribly messed up the whole chain of pharmaceutical command and information flow is just bad, to put mildly. But anyway, that is generally all the super chats involving you, Nick, in particular. I know we definitely don't want to keep you longer than you have to hang, as much as we enjoy your company. We know
Feel
you
free
have
to
a
stick
life.
around if you want to, but if you want to go, you are more than welcome.
It's been a long one.
Yeah.
I think I'll bail. But good luck with the rest of the super
Thank you, sir.
chats, and always a pleasure being on your show. I really appreciate it.
Always great to have you.
Me. And thanks everyone for the super chats. You can go check me out, The Missing Enigma, if you don't already know.
Please do. If you have not been following him, there have been a number of times where Nick has changed my mind on a case.
Yeah.
Well, it's what we do. We bounce ideas off each other, right? So
yeah, it's great.
Anyway, I hope to talk to you guys soon, and otherwise, have a great night.
All right,
Likewise,
see you, man.
Transition over to our regular style.
Ooh, and I'm gonna take off these headphones because my ears be hurting.
Yep.
Ooh,
For as good as those headphones are.
They don't stick out as much as they used to, but these bad boys are a little out there.
Yeah. No, trust me, mine hurt too.
Yeah, headphones hurt.
So I will.
I don't know why we haven't bought new ones. It's not like we don't have. It's not like we don't have the money to buy nicer headphones.
You know what it is?
Of all of the many things we've had to spend money on for this business.
That's the thing. That's the reason, is because we keep prioritizing other things, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah. One day you're gonna tune into this show, and I'm gonna have just the nicest headphones. Also, what is going on with that? Why are we so jumpy lately? It's the computer.
Probably. I have.
Let's start streaming these on my computer.
Sure.
My laptop.
We can just do you frequently use that?
No.
So we could just leave it here.
Basically only when I'm traveling.
It'd be a lot easier to leave it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's do that.
The reason I wasn't doing that is because the intention was to get Amanda to learn to play video games so I could play video games with her, but video games make her nauseous. Which I'm not even sure how to fix that. I'm not sure how to fix her, She's broken.
Horrible.
I love her, but she is broken. You shouldn't get sick because of video games.
Don't clip that. Anyway, so we have a lot of super chats.
I'm waiting for the phone to buzz.
Yeah. We have a lot of super chats, and it's already 9:14.
Oh boy!
So what do you?
How fast can we go through?
Let's find out. Do you want to read this first one up here?
Do you want to zoom in on it? Remember,
your poor eyes, man.
glasses or
Yeah.
laser eye surgery. I was planning to spend some money on that soon, but then my cars both needed a lot of work. All right, what? Okay, that's too much zoom.
Oh, there are the buzzes.
Thank you so much for that. I'm broken. Okay, I get it. I'll just leave.
Good luck going home tonight.
Oh no, this is very normal for us. This is not real anger. I
Fair.
think.
If I was in your shoes, I'd be concerned. Kat, you're great. You're
Well,
sick right
earlier-
now, but you're great.
One of the messages that I did not reply to before I said that was my Hebhorp. She hit her head earlier, apparently.
She's not beating the allegations.
Also, I have the live show on the TV, and Ella has not moved. Even when I went to take a shower, she's actually falling asleep to the sound of you yapping. That's pretty cute, actually.
Yeah, that's nice.
She goes, "No, I'm just kidding. I promise. Show the phone." You can confirm.
I can confirm.
Told you, she's great.
Well, there was never any doubt in
I
that.
know.
All right, you want to read this one from Gomb?
Some couples snail everything.
Is
And-
everything even?
I'm gonna murder you.
It's
Gomb.
far easier than it's
Gomb.
ever been.
It's Gomb. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh god, everything about this chat just sucks. This is one of the worst super chats we've ever received. I'm not gonna lie.
You don't have to read it.
I'm gonna read it, but I'm gonna do it in the Trump voice.
It's the only possible
Yeah.
option.
The Herald of Windusy, I speaketh on settling news. Chris Chan plans to sire a child. Sonny Chu will live on. We cannot stop it. The Windusy trembles.
For as short as it was just a lot.
Oh, it's horrible. That's a
Yeah.
terrible series of words.
Yep.
Marston just sent us $5 and then seems to remember that he meant to type a message. Thank you, by the way. I forgot to type the message. Longtime viewer. Can you scroll down a little bit? There's a bit. I appreciate the lengths you guys go to find the truth or the most likely scenario of what happened. Thank you.
Yes.
I do go to lengths.
Also, Kat, tinker, and I'm gonna stop at Wawa before I stop at your place later. So let me know if you want anything. Yeah, we already
Right,
got that one from
William
earlier. Precious Stegosaurus for 199 says, after 3 years of watching, I'm finally watching live.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you for watching for so long.
Gomb is asking if the P.O. box is still open. No pipe bombs, I promise.
No, but we just have a business address now.
Yeah, we do.
So it's, and you know what? It is such an American business address.
Yeah.
We have the most Americana little setup going here between the town we live in and the address. It's 10 North Main Street, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. Use that address for the right purposes, because if you use it for the wrong purposes, you will leave in a body bag.
Say it one more time.
Use that address for the right purposes, because if you use it for the wrong purposes, you'll leave in a body bag. We have cameras, first of all, so you even if you got away, you wouldn't get away. And we also keep several firearms in convenient locations around the building. Because the flat earthers are that insane.
He's not kidding.
There are at least 3 firearms in this building right now.
I didn't even know that. Anyway.
Wait, what's the JD Vance?
Yeah. With the little...
I need some eyeliner, though.
Yeah, how does he have... Does he...
I don't know. The dude definitely was a MyChem fan.
Yeah, JD, you definitely...
I mean,
were
same.
not
Like,
allowed
I'm not, that's not a dig. Just like, he definitely screamed in his room along to some Breaking Ben back in the day.
I could see it.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I get it.
We've all been there.
We've all been there.
I got into 3 Days Grace because when I was in middle school, the college girl that drove my little van to camp every day was into it. And I thought she was cute.
No, that works. Yeah, I mean, that's what I like about politics is we get a broad spectrum, right? You know, JD Vance, clearly a MyChem guy. Tim Waltz was apparently Brat.
I would see Tim Waltz being a Panic at the Disco guy.
I could see that. The dark horse candidate for band, but yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
Also, what's brat?
Oh, I have no clue.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
just gonna start saying things are brat. It's like, is it gent?
Yeah, basically, I think it is the female equivalent of is it gent.
Okay, gotcha. We should just start doing The Gentleman as a podcast with absolutely zero structure.
No, you know what we should do? We should do The Gentleman as a podcast, but not promote it whatsoever. Don't tell anybody we're doing it.
Don't tell it exists. Yeah, just
Yeah.
put it up on YouTube. It's literally just like 30 minutes of us taking a random topic and is it gent? And neither of us actually really knows what gent means, by the way.
I would purely just be curious to see if it would organically grow.
It would be
as well.
really funny if
Right?
it did.
Because then
Just at no point in the show do we ever actually discuss gent, aside from if we decide if it is or isn't.
yes, and then we would truly know whether or not this is lightning in the bottle or we actually have talent.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to be happy with the results of that.
Even if it's the most successful thing in the world, it's going to be disappointing.
Oh, yeah. Like, we try so hard with this.
Yeah.
It's like,
The White Trash Panda for $2 says, I doubt it showed up today, but new decor
it
incoming.
did show up. I'm going to go get it.
Yeah, we were excited by this. Kellen says, yeah, we haven't opened it yet, but we're looking forward to. Kellen's, can we open it live on stream and not get demonetized? Excuse me. Also, Kellen says, we're so back. We are. You'll hear it when you get back. We'll just wait. We'll just wait. He's almost back. He's almost here. I was just waiting for you to return because I knew you were rushing up the stairwell. But yeah, Kellen says we're so back. JMO says for $5, I totally have not become a view bot for the past 32-ish hours. The milk totally did not give me this idea. Praise the milk instead of the sun.
Hey, I appreciate it.
We both very much appreciate it.
By the way, this was very well packaged.
Well done, sir.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Also, William Martin for another $20 says you gave him the Fent behind the Arby's.
That's not true. I'd never be caught dead near an Arby's. I only do that near CVS.
You already have enough meats?
I do have the meats. Actually, I don't have any meats right now because I just moved again.
Same. I haven't had meat in my fridge in ages because I keep letting it go bad.
Guys, I do have to tell you, there is one thing I would appreciate from you guys more than anything else in the world, and it is if you do eat at Sedona Tap House, just boycott it forever for the rest of your life. We don't like Sedona Tap House here at the lodge.
It's the reason he moved.
Yeah. Because for me, it was Sedona Trap House, and for you, it was Sedona Crap House.
Yeah.
It was actually Sedona Crap House for me, too, but a long time ago.
Yep.
Okay, this is wrapped in cellophane, or saran wrap, or whatever the proper term for that is here in America.
Either are accurate.
Because the Brits say cellophane.
They do.
It's
it worked.
really well packaged. Well
done again.
There was tape around the box, which contained a paper wrapped this, which was taped shut, which this was then in turn wrapped in cellophane and also taped shut.
Oh, by the way, I didn't notice the other piece of fan art that's in your studio until yesterday or 2 days ago when I was helping you move. The one that the
one's tucked behind the canvas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Sam Levan, the one who made my my costume, my getup for the.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Isn't it? Yeah, Sam. By the way, Sam has a channel. God, it's escaping me what it's called right now. But she just started a channel where she's doing that kind of thing. I will try to find a link to it.
If you by chance are watching this, I would love a copy of what you gave Mattis, considering I'm also on it. That'd be sweet. I would appreciate that because it was really cool. Also, while you do that, Historian Julie for $10.01, I love the specificity, says, been watching old vids while I recover from a health thing. Thanks for getting me through the boredom. Also, as a historian, I appreciate emphasis you put on citing and verifying sources. Thank you. Specifically to both of us, because I'm the one who does all the citations in video, especially for all the images and stuff that we do, and it takes a lot of time, and sometimes it's really tiring, and I get very, very sweepy at 4 a.m. on a Thursday, but
same.
Glad we can do it.
So the channel, by the way, for Sam, and she currently has 36 subscribers. I would love to see a lot more. She does content about her sewing. She makes costumes. She is very fun, great person. It is Sam Levan. That is SAM space LEVAN. And the @ is sam.l.made.official. If you want to type that into the chat, you're going to need to do it on this screen.
Yep. Spell it out again.
It's at
Yep.
sam.l.made.official. So I want to see some more subs on that channel. Let's make her night.
Let's do it.
She did do a really good job
Oh yeah,
on that
100%.
costume. It looked very nice.
It did. While you open that up for the remainder, Nove42 for $5 says, my mom grew up in your area, and something she told me came to mind recently that I'd like your help corroborating was Fuzzy Wazzy Fuzzy.
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy wuzzy. You never heard that?
I'm lost.
Okay. I didn't know that was a local thing. Whoa. What? Oh. Oh. Oh.
Yeah?
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Should I hold one side?
Oh, hold one side. You need to hold one side. All right, this is gonna be a big reveal.
Oh, good Lord.
This is incredible.
Where, how, when?
Here, let's stand up and get it a little closer.
Yeah. We got to put this somewhere.
Oh yeah, this is going up. I don't know where.
Somewhere in here.
Right here, let's This is phenomenal.
Here, bring it back a little bit so it's more than light.
This is fantastic. Oh my god, I love it. Here, let's wrap it up for now.
Yep.
Just keep it compact. But oh, that is beautiful.
That might be one of the best things we've ever gotten.
Archie's intrigued.
Oh, I bet he is. Good Lord.
Hey, buddy boy. We gotta hang this up right downstairs, right in the bar.
Yeah, we do. You're 100% right, we do. That was phenomenal.
Get a sign for that bar that says the local spirit.
Yeah, we do. Vampire from Pluto for $5 says, does Missing Enigma belong to... Oh, yeah, we already did that one. Did that one.
You got all those tears in your eyes.
Gomb is asking for $5. How much for a One Piece lore video? Name your price. It will also be an easier read than Zerk. I will pay any amount.
I
of
do need to point out, Amanda, while we were packing up, she was packing up the books, and she opens up Berserk, and she goes, "What?" She goes, "What is this?" And I went, "Oh, keep turning pages. It gets worse."
I really got to look at this book.
No, you don't. It's bad enough that I have to.
I really got to look at this book. Tyler Dalrymple for 556, love the specificity, says, what if Gibson did buy that ring herself? And we already covered this question, which is nice. We did Montana. Go ahead, buddy. What else we got here?
Studio puppy.
Did that one. Did that one. Yep, did that one. Oh, yeah. Isuru Akuma for $6.66 says, if y'all ever get back into doing weird Bible stuff or anything, I'd love to see your take on Satan's Guide to the Bible. What is that?
Never heard of it in my life. I'm going to have to look into it.
That'll be interesting. We did those two.
Patreon, the novella, for just in case this wasn't heard, the novella is one of the earliest posts on the Patreon, and I believe if you search the page for We Went Camping, it comes up.
Nice. Miss Maury for $10 says, awesome YouTube moment today. The channel I've watched the longest. Shouted out the Lore Lodge you got to mention on Answers with Joe in a 4-on-1 overview. He was talking about good places for more details.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tegan Welsh Reineck is been a member for 2 months.
Second month. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm not reading that one. I'm not reading that one.
I'm not even sure what it means.
Burned the coal. Think about it. What color is coal, Layden?
I see.
Cass, man.
I see. When I saw coal, I thought of rolling coal, like with a truck. So I was like, "What?" So she got a truck. Oh yeah, rolling coal.
There's another joke in there that I'm simply not going to make, but
That's good. Yeah, rolling coal is, when a truck goes by, especially like a really like souped up, F-250 or 350 or whatever, and
sure,
it's
we'll
diesel,
pretend I do.
and
It's got the black smoke. Yeah.
yeah, that's rolling coal.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Marson for $5 says, aside from the Dennis Martin case, Gareth Bartley is the one that I just don't understand because of the fishing pole went missing as well.
Yeah. I meant to ask about that.
Yeah. Ryan Whitcup for $5.37 asked a question that I already answered. Ian Ramage for $5 says, are there any missing 411 cases in New Hampshire?
There are. I have not looked into any of them too deeply, but there are. I'm thinking Vermont and New Hampshire when we get, because we're not sure what the audience wants right now, and the algorithm and the audience want different things. So we're trying to figure out how to schedule content going forward. I definitely want to keep doing the missing 411 clusters just because I enjoy it.
Same.
I have a fun time researching those for the most part. Every once in a while, it's like, oh, come on. But for the most part, it's a lot of fun. I think I'll do New Hampshire and Vermont as probably one, and then that way we don't have to make multiple trips. Yeah, that'll probably be one. Pennsylvania is going to be one. I might even there are some in Ohio. There's like 3.
Where?
Well, probably in a Kroger.
That works. I was just going to make a joke about Ohio not existing, but I like that one better.
Probably in a goddamn Kroger.
Yeah.
Everything in Ohio's in a Kroger.
And the things that are in Ohio Krogers are
closed.
Isn't that fun? Gaius Rax for $4.99 says, the Windussi 2828 campaign has agreed to divert more federal funding into building of the official Lore Lodge Navy.
Yeah.
You know what I like.
We just need to figure out what lake.
Ocean.
Meats.
Ocean.
We have the ocean meats. You remember when Arby's had a fish commercial?
Like salmon?
Oh, God. Just go to the next question.
Fenton the man salmon?
I knew Fenton was going to come up.
Yep. Oh, he's doing something all right. Jedi Drewster T for $5.01. You know I love the specificity. Says, can't wait for our new history pod. You need to get the fat electrician on an episode. We didn't get enough history spewing between you in unsub, believe it or not.
I can't say for certain it's going to happen.
But we're trying.
But there is a greater than 50% chance that that Nick's going to be on.
There's a non-zero chance this occurs.
So the fun part is if you enjoyed the Fat Electrician X the Lore Lodge, if he comes on to the history show, you're going to get the Fat Electrician X the Lore Lodge X History of Everything / Takuyi X Roman Helmet Guy.
It's a lot of X's.
Yeah.
And none of them
3 of them, in
Texas.
fact.
Well, except one of them it is.
What? Well, yeah. Well, no, I think isn't he from like Iowa?
Oh, yeah, he flies into Texas for that. Yeah, I forgot about that. Landon Harrison for $1.99 says, the Justin Gaines thing, and then the TWA, and then the $100 one. Thank you again for that.
Thank you for that. It was very kind of you.
NC Squatch for $5.56. Specificity, you know I love it. Haven't caught y'all in a live in a hot minute. Just wanted to thank everyone who makes this content possible. Y'all are killing it. Keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Other than the 2 you see on camera now, everyone who's watching is what makes this possible. So thank you.
Yeah, literally.
Gum for $2.69, you know. 2025 sexy calendar.
I'm just going to disappear into the woods for 2 months so that I can come back shredded.
You're going to pull a Rocky 4?
I'm a horrible Philadelphian, I got to be honest, man. I've never seen any of the Rocky movies.
None?
I might have seen Rocky 1 at some point when I was a child.
Okay, next time we do a Lord of the Rings marathon, we're following that up with a Rocky marathon.
Immediately?
Not in the same day.
Does it include the Creed films?
Yes.
So, to be clear, we're going to do 12 hours of Lord of the Rings, take a break to poop, and then watch the entire Rocky series?
No, we'll take a break to sleep. It's a weekend event.
Okay. All right. I'll take it.
Yep.
2-day event.
2-day event. Rapid Space for $20.22 says the missing Enigma screen didn't freeze. He just put up the cardboard cutout of himself. You didn't notice. Just kidding. Love you all.
The one frozen.
Dude,
That was really funny.
I gotta wonder if he could see it on his end.
Oh, I don't think he could.
Eleanor de Howler Werewolf Queen for $4.99 says, could those gunshots have been someone hunting regular wildlife like deer? I could also see signal shots.
From my understanding, it was not allowed in the park.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if it was, especially outside of hunting season, even if it was.
Yeah.
Miss Maury for $5 says, missing Enigma knew too much. After the call dropped, he was replaced with an FBI clone, 100% facts. I wouldn't be shocked. Carly for $5 says, hi lads, been a while. I'm a male woman now. Anyway,
good for you.
Aiden, give us the headlights you referred to in the Smokies video in this sexy calendar, damn it. That's getting warm, not cold.
I know. Stop objectifying me.
You objectified yourself.
Not getting the OnlyFans. It's not happening.
No, they just want the calendar.
You can have the Only Phantoms.
There you go.
I got to get that shirt on Bunker.
Yeah.
I got to disconnect.
Who was that
current
in
shop.
collaboration with again?
What? The Only Phantoms?
Yeah.
That was just me.
Oh, okay. Incredible. Eleanor de Howler Werewolf Queen for $9.99 says tech support money.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Corp for $4.99.
Thank you.
Kellen the official data for 556. Love the specificity, saying throwing car batteries into the ocean is perfectly safe and in fact is actually beneficial for aquatic life. Gotta recharge the electric eels /JK.
Bro, I got ripped apart on Twitter this morning because I was like complaining about fluoride in the water.
Oh. If you think that doesn't come up in a later super chat.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, we're getting there. Asuru Akuma has been a member for 6 months.
Thank you.
you, and let me know if I'm butchering your name.
So I don't know. Are you?
No, I don't know. You just looked at me. I thought you were going to make a comment.
I'd be interested if you check out the Tonkawa tribe of Texas. Is that one of the isolates? One of the language isolates like the Natchez?
That'd be cool. I wouldn't be shocked. Also, thank you, Cody85 for the $5.
Feel like it is.
Tyler Dalrymple for $2.23. Love it. Says, no way wind created enough infrasound to kill.
Yep,
You'd be
linguistic
surprised.
isolate.
Nice. You would be surprised. From our research, yes, it very much can.
What? Which one was this? Infrasound?
Yep. No way wind created enough infrasound to kill.
It can.
Shockingly enough, it can. I would recommend Googling it. Asuru Akuma, I just said this. Isuru Akuma, thank you for $2.69.
I came for Nick. That is all.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Glad you were here.
Alex Corp for $4.99 says, fiance of 5 years broke up with me, so you don't have the funds that were for him.
Alex.
And when would you be up to make a statement about the boy in the box case? First of all,
that was a specific thing about me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna privately give you my actual phone number. Use it wisely. Which camera?
Yep.
Use it wisely. I don't know where you live, but I'll find out. So that you can text me, because I have entirely too many messages in entirely too many places right now, and I do not have a personal assistant to remind me of things. But yes, I will give you over Discord a good number to use.
Also, horribly sorry to hear about that. That is
If you want to tell me where he lives,
us. Well, we'll say hi. We'll say hello.
I just want to talk to him.
We'll greet him pleasantly. I don't know. It won't be anything even remotely like what Whistler and Diesel had to go through recently in terms of getting their money back.
I do not know what you're referring to.
He put out 2 videos recently where a guy scammed one of his boys on Marketplace who was trying to get a Corvette, and he took $1,000. Oh, it's a great little, video and sequel.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to take a look.
Yep. You'll appreciate the results because you'll be like, yeah, that checks out. Anyway.
Did he get his comeuppance?
Not even necessarily that. It was just more he was Cody felt bad throughout most of it because it genuinely seemed like this guy was just really going through a rough time. And then when he got like heavily called out on it,
Wasn't going through a rough time?
Nope.
Oh, boy.
nope, took him a year to pay back any of the money. And then Cody gave half of it back because he was like, I'm sorry, your mom's like going through like cancer and surgery.
Uh-huh.
And then he put out the first video, and a bunch of the people in the comments were like, dude, these stories don't track. And he was like, yeah, we didn't notice how weird these were. So they called the guy back,
Uh-huh.
and they were like, yeah, you have this amount of time to give us back the original amount plus another $1,000 for damages in terms of like how much time and gas they spent going to and from his town.
Oh, my God.
And he like Venmo'd cash like almost immediately.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Sorry for spoilers, but I highly recommend you go watch the video just to support Cody. Because, yeah, we don't like people who lie about their family having medical crises, because that's not cool.
No.
And it makes it hard to believe when other people truly are going through crises.
Yep.
So don't take away from the public trust.
It's true.
Yeah. Anyway, let's wrap this up sooner than later.
Ryan
here.
Wickup says, guys, I hear a rumor that a certain infamous Sonic fan may become a parent. Who?
Chris Chan.
No, I know that. Who?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Who looked at that thing? Not saying that because of any gender identification, just what that person has done in their life.
I know so little about Chris Chan, and I'm so glad.
I don't remember the specifics, but something involving his mom.
The only thing I know about Chris Chan is that
Her
on
mom? His
on a body, there was a body cam footage thing
Uh-huh.
where they got arrested for something. That was my first introduction to that person. So
Ah, yeah, a recording of internet creator Christine Chandler. I don't know where we are with this now. Admitting to having sex with her mother went viral in 2021.
oh, great.
So I don't know who decided that thing needed to spawn.
Spawn is such a brutal word.
It's the only one to use.
All right. Anyway, Lotimus,
Gonna get taken out of context and used to try and cancel us watch.
100% for $5 said, could he have possibly had suicidal tendencies but not wanted to do it himself, leading him to be less cautious in his random camping?
Probably
trips?
about Jordan.
Yeah.
From what I understand, no. He was not depressed.
Really?
It was just kind of weird. You know? Joshua Nelms says, thanks for the videos. I want to suggest the Dogman Triangle in Texas for all the research. Apparently, there are an unusual amount of encounters. I'm perfectly willing to take a look. I might even try and get Roanoke Tales to collab on that one. That'll be a fun one.
That would be cool. Also, in terms of Jordan Grider, there was a Jordan Grider that I saw that looked vaguely similar that apparently had done prison time. I don't know if it
Might have been the same one.
Yeah.
There were some mentions in the book by, I want to say his name was Joe Friedrichs, I think.
Okay.
But there was some mention in his book, and if I understand correctly, he had talked to members of the family, got a bit more of a bio about the guy. He did mention something about run-ins with the law, but he wasn't specific. So I mean, the fact that the way the timeline worked out, it sounds like whatever run-ins he had, if he did go to jail, it didn't last that long. So I'm guessing it wasn't anything serious, probably petty offenses, misdemeanors. He had a gun, so he wasn't a felon, because there was no mention of an illegal handgun. So he can't have been a felon.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Joshua Nelms for $5. Oh, you just did that one. Yeah, we can look into that. Kellen for 556 says, I will go into the woods alone all I want. Also, handheld GPS with extra batteries and not just a cell phone. Smart.
We've made errors in our lives. Don't repeat them.
Yeah, we're fine. You might
Did
not
make it
be,
off that mountain.
but we were fine. We lived. Rifleman, we already did that one. Rocky for 199 says, can you debunk the they did it conspiracies?
I feel like every time I research a conspiracy, we eventually get there.
Yeah,
That's where it originated. It's like, this is a weird conspiracy. Why are they even up? They think it's the Jews.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, pretty much anything we cover that's a conspiracy is us doing that. So
yeah. I don't know. I feel like doing a video debunking every single conspiracy theory about the Jews would take so long. Because there's a certain subset of people that just blame everything on the Jews.
yeah, and it's if we thought Tartaria or Flat Earth was bad on their own, imagine all of them at once.
Yeah. Now, an iceberg, perhaps.
That could be fun.
That could be a fun one.
Paisaki for $4.99 says, if YouTube will take you down for saying this, don't answer. But what's the deal with what you were just
Fluoride
talking
water.
about on Twitter? I'm unsure where to
So,
stand. I trust your
I
research.
will say, don't trust my research on fluoride. I have barely researched it. My position on fluoride is more political than anything, which is don't put chemicals in my drinking water. Like, I did not consent to that. If you want me to drink fluoride water, have a brand of fluoridated water. I can use toothpaste. I can use mouthwash. I don't need to drink the fluoride. This was introduced at a time when American dental hygiene was way worse. Also, if I'm understanding things correctly, the rate of cavities in the United States is much higher than the rate of cavities in France, where they don't have fluoridated water, except for like a small percentage of the population. And I think it's naturally occurring fluoride.
Yep.
I just don't like the precedent of putting chemicals in the water to turn the freaking teeth strong, to almost quote a person whose name I can't say because YouTube don't like it. But no, listen, I don't think fluoride is a particularly dangerous thing for you to drink. I just think it's an unnecessary thing to be in the drinking water, and I don't like when the government medicates me against my will, no matter what that medication is.
Man, that's a really radical stance, dude.
Yeah, right? You know, my favorite thing was the people who are like, I think the government would know. And I'm like, the Tuskegee experiment happened, and it only ended in 1972. Why did it end? Because journalists found out it existed.
We should do an iceberg of how many times journalists found out that the government was doing something that was directly hurting the American people, and then they were forced to stop.
Yep. Like, I feel like we're at the point where, with the internet and media being what it is, you could just tell people, en masse, hey guys, brush your teeth.
Isn't that
And
the
if you
standard?
don't brush your teeth and you get cavities, it's your fault. It's not everyone else's fault for not putting a neurotoxin in the water.
Also, doesn't like every parent make their child brush their teeth?
Yeah. I will admit, as an adult, I sometimes have to remind myself I'm supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, that's just life.
Yeah, but I also have to, I haven't been to the dentist in 3 years. I got to fix that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have naturally good teeth,
I
you're
do.
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
never had a cavity. The closest thing I had to a cavity was when the dentist was like, hey, this might turn into a cavity, so I'm just going to fill it. And then recently a study came out, and apparently that happens all the time to people who don't even have cavities. Because dentists need a reason to have you come visit twice a year.
Yeah.
So a lot of them overprescribe.
I'm on the other end. I
Yeah.
I definitely have had a lot of cavities.
What's really funny, though, I've had 0 cavities in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have a chipped tooth that didn't chip from me hitting it. It just disintegrated. But there's no cavity. This one. See?
Okay, so yeah, I would go to a dentist.
It's been a year and a half.
I would go to a dentist.
I probably will.
I mean, I had that as a result of a root canal that never got a crown properly. So the tooth disintegrated in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be indicative of a cavity that was there that then...
It's at the top of the tooth.
Yeah, that can happen.
That's not bothering me now. I should go to I need to go to the dentist. I'm aware of that fact. Stop looking at me like that. You look like my mom.
I would go to the dentist.
I will.
Why does everybody I know that's in my life not want to go to see doctors?
I don't care about going to see the doctor.
Yes, you do. You
No,
went
no.
3 weeks and then you
That's
got
because
pneumonia.
I didn't want to spend the money. Also, I'm kind of like short of breath and coughing again, so I should go back to see the doctor.
Yes. Also, Kat, you should go see the doctor tomorrow if you didn't today.
Yeah, I agree with him on that one, Kat.
She was sick. She was
Kat,
getting.
you want to go to the
better.
doctor together?
Do a
We're gonna
doctor
make a
date.
day of it.
Do a doctor date. Doctor date. Paging doctor, whatever the song is.
Beat.
Emergency.
Okay.
I'm a TikTok guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I love sounding like a boomer on these. All right. Anyway, next is from Local Legends. Bert Moran, the man, the myth, the legend himself, for $5 says, a case I'm Skidmore, Missouri. I want to look into.
Probably in.
Yeah, into is Branson Perry. I will eventually go to check it out at some point. Keep up the great work. Thank you, brother. Same to you.
Amanda's complaining. It's been 3 hours.
Yeah,
We're getting through it. There were an unexpected number of super chats, Amanda.
Cat's yelling at us in the chat saying, "I'm fine."
You're not fine.
You're not fine. I mean, you're fine.
Bert, I'm just gonna. Anytime I see a name that has anything close to Brandon or Swanson in it, I'm just gonna send it your way because Branson, you just mashed them together here.
Pretty much. Bacon Snake 64 for $1.99 says Montana's cold AF. It was 7 degrees in Billings.
What about customer service or accounts receivable?
Most likely colder. HR is like,
oh, HR is like into the like negative 471
Yeah,
Kelvin or whatever the number is.
they're borderline absolute zero.
Yeah. If you work in HR, I'm not going to apologize. I'm just going to ask why.
We're not angry. We're just disappointed.
No, I might be angry.
The Nerdiest Geek is a new member.
Thank you.
Sam Russell for $4.99 says, please look up the Springfield 3. It is a vampire story from Missouri. Happened in the 90s. The Ozarks. Be wild.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. The Ozarks do be wild.
They do.
Aiden Patco says, you'll have a cult competition up here. Be warned. You'll have cult competition up here. I believe it.
Yeah. Oh, God. Are we going to start an intercultural war?
No.
Yes, we are. Because the opportunity if the opportunity presents itself for you to fight a rival cult in the middle of Wyoming, you're going to take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, only if we're trained.
Okay. I got guys. I got some dudes.
As long as it's just the men who willingly participate,
Mm-hmm.
no draft,
I will not conscript.
no women and children.
Of course not.
I know I'm putting that out for them. I know you wouldn't.
Wait, no women and children as in no women and children involved in combat?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
No, they can be in the
I was going to say, they can be in the ranch.
cult.
You know what? I was talking to Amanda about this. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to make it so sus. It's going to be so culty from the outside. And then, like, somebody's going to infiltrate, right? They're going to be getting the scoop of their life. They're going to come in. They're going to be like, finally initiated. It's like, okay, you can come to the meeting. They get to the meeting. Like, it's like a church. It's like a Catholic mass. And it seems really culty. And then they go up to do communion. And instead of bread and wine, they get a carrot and ranch.
I'm all behind this. The more we can make people freaked out and then come
Yeah.
to a point of realization where it's all bullshit, I'm all in.
Yeah. And we just never really let them see the inner circle,
Yeah, exactly.
which is, of course, celery and blue cheese.
Don't forget the wings.
No. The wings are when you get into the inner circle, where you have wings and Thousand Island dressing.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's this
Yeah.
circle.
Yes.
We get the wings.
Nobody else gets the wings.
We get the wings. We get the wings.
All right. Somebody else said video on the Springfield 3. Guess I'm doing a video on the Springfield 3.
Seems like it. Gaius Rax,
Gonna need something less heartrending after I finish jumping.
Yeah. Geist Rex for 1999 saying, taking applications for admirals in the new official Lore Lodge Navy, I'd like to get a command staff ready by the time President Wendussi takes office. Contact CNO Gaius in the Lore Lodge Discord for more info. I'll keep you on the short list.
Why don't you guys get like World of Warships or something, and you can make this a thing?
Here's the problem. I would love to. I don't have time to play games anymore.
That's fair.
But it would be fun.
That's why I play games from like 2 to 3 a.m. sometimes.
Yeah, I just got to sneak it in somehow. Question for everybody. Out of all of the games that are out there currently, in terms of like Sea of Thieves, what is the one? I was just talking to somebody in the Discord recently. It's the Naval Action. Sea of Thieves, Naval Action, World of Warships, all these fun stuff. Primarily Age of Sail would be ideal. But of all the ones that are out there, what would allow us to create the largest armada in a multiplayer scenario? And let me know who's interested, because if we could do that, I would do it.
Hold Fast.
Hold Fast?
Hold Fast has naval modes. Is it clunky as all hell? Yes. Is it fun? Absolutely.
Okay. We'll look into it. Yeah,
and we have a Hold Fast regiment. Like, it exists.
How large can you get in naval action? Somebody let me know. Anyway, the next one is from... Yep, already said that one. An ordinary trooper for, looks like Czech $100 says, when I hear stories like that, I am more glad for Czech hiking marker systems here. Honestly, fair.
I don't know what they're like, but
probably better than whatever we have.
Yeah. I would say, even on the Appalachian Trail, which has some pretty decent markers, they're still hard to read because it's carved, not painted.
Rabbit Space for $10 says, I had a math teacher in high school that was very adamant that 9/11 was faked. Well, there's a reason they're teaching math and not anything else.
Just like, what math teacher is getting up there like, so if you have 16 terrorists and 2,097 people in a plane going 400 miles an hour, at what speed does it impact the South Tower?
How many apples does Johnny have left over?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't even have words for that, to be honest with you. Anyway, Japeth37 for Canadian $6.99 says, if you feel like disliking the RCMP even more, look into the
Porta-Peak shootings
in Nova Scotia would benefit from you taking a look at it.
I can certainly try.
We can, and we will.
A lot of things to list.
Yep. Emerald Queen for $4.99 says, would you be okay with me sending you something by mail? I have some books I think you would like. 100%.
Absolutely. The one thing I will say is, for some reason, they deliver things onto our back parking lot instead of our front porch here. So if you do send something that is paper, wrap it in cellophane.
Yeah, be aware it could get wet.
Yeah, that was entirely the right thing to do. I made fun of it a little bit, but no, we've had a few times where they've just left something out where it could easily get rained on, even though you can so very easily leave something on our front porch. We have a driveway in the front.
Yeah, it's weird. Tink Knocker Gin for $1.99 says, could Lystrigonians be cousins of the Wendigo?
Oh, well, no, I gotta look that up. Lystrigonians? That sounds familiar. Tribe of man-eating giants.
Possibly.
I think that... I genuinely think a lot of these legends are related to tribes. Just what?
I was wondering if Kat responded to anything that we said. And she said, the children yearn for combat.
Oh, yeah. And the mines. See, that's what we'll do at the ranch. We'll put the children into the mines. Minecraft IRL.
It's everybody's dream. It was my dream.
Yeah, exactly.
I want a diggy hole. Gom for $2 says, just sent Sonichu medallion to the studio.
I think that has to do with Chris Chan.
Wonderful.
Can I shoot it?
That could be fun.
Can we take it to the range?
I'm going to start a GunTuber channel now, too. We have too many channels.
Yeah. We make a video parodying Brandon Herrera.
There we go.
And then we shoot it.
Let's make the AK-1.
The AK-22?
Yes. Yes. The AK-17.
Oh God. The AK-410.
Yeah. Oh, the AK-12.
I shot my friend with an AK-28.
I shot my friend with an AK-183 millimeter.
Oh God.
That would be your friend would no longer. Your friend would be missed.
It's 18.3 centimeters.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost a foot.
Yep.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, they used them on tanks in World War II.
Okay.
Yep.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. The Mangled Wither for $10 says, I'd like to say thank you for making these videos. I love listening to them, and they've helped me keep going. I have a question. Could you guys look into Andrew Godson? Yes, we can.
I'm going to look it up right now.
Can't promise we'll do a video on it because it depends on how much information there is out there, but we will look.
Wait, Andrew, was it? Andrew
Gosden? Gosden, yeah.
Gosden.
Ella, for $2, says this.
I understand it's in jest. I just can't read it.
Yeah, we can't read that. Miss Maury for $2 says dentist.
Doesn't hurt now, will suddenly later.
Yes.
I know. I've been a bad boy. But here's the thing. I was planning to go to the dentist, and then my dentist got accused of some not very good things, and it turned out to not be true at all, but I didn't go to the dentist. It turned out to be complete bullshit.
Well, that's good. Echo Warrior for $9.99 says, question for y'all. Given how different y'all's opinions are since you started, what are your thoughts on the Valley of Headless Men?
Still weird.
Also, Mattis, are you enjoying the new Yellowstone season?
Still weird. I think Kevin Costner may have had a very positive impact on the show.
Yeah, I haven't watched the new season yet. I've watched all but the new season because I watched it back when it started.
I mean, well, so, like, you know how we were talking about how it got a little soapy?
Yes.
It is, like, straight soap opera dialogue.
Really?
Yeah. It's worst in episode 9. I haven't seen episode 11 yet. We've seen episode 9, episode 10. Episode 10 was better than episode 9.
How many episodes are they doing this season?
But it's, you know how, like, for 4.5 seasons of the show, nothing happens?
Yes.
And yet you're still riveted?
No. I'm sorry. I'm not going to lie. I love the show.
Uh-huh.
But by the time season 4 kicked around.
Okay, so fine. Like, yeah, the first 3 seasons, nothing happens. You're still riveted. Season 4, you're invested.
Well, that's the thing. It was like for season 4, for season like 2.5 through 4, it was like, I'm here for the cowboy shit.
Yeah.
I want to watch
but
Montana.
You get my point.
Yes.
That, like, it's not a show where you're watching for, intense new action each week. It's not like Criminal Minds. It's not like, God, what's another high tier streaming thing right now? It's
Game of Thrones.
It's not like Game of Thrones. It's not like You. It's not where each episode there's like a ton of plot going on. It's really fast paced and keeping it moving.
Yeah, it's become much more of a character show if you can even describe it as that.
Yeah, and that was okay in seasons 4 and the first half of season 5 because the dialogue was still really good. Like there were, enough really great moments to keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not feeling that way right now. Like, I'm just kind of watching it. I'm waiting for it to limp to the finish.
There's a reason I haven't watched it yet.
The main reason I'm still watching the show is I just want to see how Beth dies. And I'm really hoping she does, because if Taylor Sheridan does not kill that character, I'm never forgiving him.
He made Wind River. How did you go from that to this?
Because in Wind River, he didn't have time to get attached to the characters.
Yeah.
Like, Beth was a cool character in season 1. By the end of season 2, you're like, okay, you're batshit insane and causing all of the problems for your family.
What happened to the 4 Sixes Ranch spinoff? Because I was really looking forward to that one.
Was a Sixes Ranch spinoff?
There was supposed to be.
Interesting. What would happen?
We would follow Jimmy, his new love, and him developing as a person.
I wouldn't have watched that.
Oh, I would have.
I would have watched a movie.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, is Taylor Sheridan's really good at writing movies. I don't think he knows how to end a TV show.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. I'm interested in Landman.
I haven't even heard of that one.
That's it's instead of a ranch, it's oil.
Interesting.
Yeah, it seems interesting. And from what I heard about the first episode, it was really good. I heard there was one weird moment that they were like, this felt awkward and forced. But aside from that, I've heard good things. Yeah, I mean, 1883 was phenomenal. Like, 1883 was a show where nothing happened, and you were riveted. You've got to watch it. 1923, a little bit more fast-paced, still solid. I think probably the best of the set. From what I understand, there's also going to be a 1963 that I think is supposed to follow John's dad.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish this out. Gom for 502, love the specificity, says, Sonichu will be there in time for the 12/9 stream. Unbox it then, please.
Do you think
Windows
we'd get demonetized if I shot it on stream?
Probably.
Ah, damn it.
Also, we'd probably get kicked out of this building. You know what? Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, fair. If it damaged the building, we would. Yeah. Killing the official data for $2 says wings and a Thousand Island dressing. I'm unsubbing. Yeah,
What if it's
honestly,
Russian dressing.
Thousand Island was pretty heinous of you on that one. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, wait till we get to the pastrami and Italian.
As long as the pinnacle is tendies and honey mustard, we're gonna be okay.
Does it have to be honey mustard? Can't it just be honey? You ever have chicken tenders with honey?
I'd prefer honey mustard, but like, no reason it can't be both.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
It could be honey and mustard, and then if you want, you can combine them.
Ah.
And then last but certainly not least, an ordinary trooper for check $50 says, I would like to apply to the Lodge Navy. I recommend commandeering La Grace.
La Grace.
La Grace. You're in. You're in. Welcome.
La Grace.
I am Commodore Thornberry, and we are slowly building this Navy. And it will grow. And it will grow. And it will grow. Anyway, that's the show.
Well, no.
Dom says Windowsy to end it. You know what? Fair enough. We will no longer accept any furthers because Windowsy.
Yes. Thank you, though. That was a lot of super chats, and honestly, after the month we've had, we needed it.
Yeah, we very much
needed that. So thank you guys. We really do appreciate everything. You guys being here, spending 3 hours with us.
Good Lord.
Yeah, you are as insane as we are, and I love you for it.
Y'all are impressive.
Yeah. Friday, John Benet Ramsey Part 1. This is going to be on the shorter side because we decided that we were going to do the theory ones, like all of the different theories of what happened, in their own episode.
Yes.
So originally it was going to be introduction to the case, everything that happened. This one's very narrative style. I'm hoping that'll bridge the gap between the people who are more, I want, like, folklore and mystery, and the people who are more, I want, scientific, like, missing persons cases. So I used the exact level of rigor that I usually use, but I wrote it in a narrative style.
We also are
I'm
expecting...
going to try and keep that going in part 2,
Yeah,
to the extent that I can.
We're also expecting that it's going to get a little lower viewership because of the holiday. So if you can watch it, that'd be amazing, but don't interrupt your holiday plans as a result of that.
It's coming out on Friday, so it's not going to be on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but, just in case you're traveling and stuff like that.
Gather the family round.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, you want to watch a story about a 6-year-old girl who got murdered?
Or if on Thanksgiving you need to disappear and find some time alone with some family that you haven't seen in a while, but are the like cool ones that you don't mind being around, show them some Lore Lodge. I know recently Jesse, our buddy who is a Marine pilot.
Yes.
He
unfriended me on Snapchat.
He did? When?
I don't know.
Well, that's weird considering he just told me through a Snapchat that like 3 of his pilot buddies all watch our stuff.
Oh, no shit.
And he just found out the other day. So he sent me a video of all of them being like, this is your... Really? No way. And they were like...
It might have just been him cleaning stuff out and not realizing who it was.
Probably. Also, I think they automatically unfollow you from people, so...
I do have a few people who I, like, haven't talked to in a while, but, like, didn't have any issues with, like, just old friends who have just disappeared from my friends list.
Yeah, I think it just automatically cleans it out.
Which is just weird.
I mean, I think because so few people are using it anymore.
Yeah, true.
Like, when's the last time you really used it, like, consistently?
I'm going to be honest. Most of what I used Snapchat for was talking to girls, and now I have one who lives with me, so.
Fair. Most of mine is funny
Yeah.
videos and images between guys.
It's like, you know how, like, the only thing that Snapchat is useful for me now is sending and receiving pictures of my dogs. And every time I, like, go over to, like, look at people's stories, there's so many random people who have added me over the years that I don't even know who they are, so I never really see the people I care about. I see a few of them. It's like how I keep up with a few people in my life. And then, of course, the story section, it's like, hey, I see you've marked your interests as sports, true crime, paranormal. Here's a girl in a bikini.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, thanks, Snapchat. You are nothing of use to me.
You ready for the most me thing of all time?
What?
Guess what the only consistent...
Trains.
Nope. Partly.
Boats.
Partly. So the only consistent, like, group
Mhm.
or, like, people that I get messages from anymore and message back to is 4 other dudes in a chat called Equipment. And it's just me and them. And anytime there's a locomotive, a plane, a piece of construction equipment, you know, anything
You are
equipment-wise,
just...
it's great.
There's like one little sliver of the spectrum, and you are as deep into it as it gets.
Hey, and I found my people. And they're all people that... 2 of them I just saw on Friday night.
I have
Rex
never
and
met
Rob.
somebody who is as autistic as you are without being autistic.
Isn't it wild?
Yeah. It's just trains. It's like just equipment.
Yeah, just equipment. It's just machines.
Okay.
And the ironic bit is that I went to school for film.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't go to a tech school.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, so
It'd be kind of hard.
This would be... we probably wouldn't have gotten
No.
here. Paying
I would be a
dividends.
professor.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
If I didn't go to film school, you'd be a professor?
Yeah.
You'd be a professor, and I'd probably be...
No, I'm not even kidding. I'm thinking about it. I would be halfway through my PhD right now. If I had done the whole thing in Wales, I would be done.
That's wild.
I would be a professor right now.
That's nuts. Now you're just an internet professor,
Yeah.
basically.
I'll take it. All right. Well, thank you guys. It was good. It was good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. If you have not subscribed to Nick's channel, The Missing Enigma, I highly recommend doing it. If you have not subscribed to my friend Sam's channel, I highly recommend doing it. At least for the, the vibes.
We're hoping for 1,000 subscriptions on that channel by the end of the next week.
Oh, that would be insane.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you next time.